these people.
All right.
You gotta share your screen.
Oh, see, rookie move. Indy missed the rookie move. Okay, so let's share my screen with Reef so he can actually see it. And then I have to do the audio share too to make sure he can hear it. He can. Okay, this is a video by Indie Media Award honoree Jonathan K. Cook. Indie Media Awards are something we came up with 3 years ago to honor the best in independent media, to showcase the ones who have been doing it right consistently and getting it right the most often. That's the sound that goes with Indie Media Awards. I didn't hear yours, Reef. But Jonathan Cook shared a video. No, I didn't. Shared a video from Declassified UK, another independent Indie Media Award honoree for top independent outlet. All right, where they're chasing down an admiral to ask him about why are we spying on, for Israel, on behalf of Israel? What's going on here? So let's hear what Declassified did.
Admiral Radican, Chief of the Defence Staff. Lovely to meet you today. I'm a journalist from Declassified UK. We've been trying for months to get answers about the Royal Air Force surveillance flights that you're sending over Gaza and the intelligence that you're sharing with Israel. Have you got any comment on those that you can give to us?
The volume on that.
Public accounts.
It's as loud as it goes.
Committee hearing, and I don't really have time for this conversation. Thank you.
We can fix that. No,
this is a matter of the gravest importance. Israel's Prime Minister is wanted by the International Criminal Court for war crimes.
Can we? Because it's Pete.
Are you going to tell the Public Accounts Committee how much these flights are costing the public?
Yeah, if you pause it, it's peaking on OBS.
Sharing intelligence.
I'm maxed out, but sorry everyone. Can we not do this now? Thank you.
With the Prime Minister of a country that's wanted by the International Criminal Court, Admiral. Is this why you joined the military, sir? Are you a disgrace to your uniform? Do you have trouble sleeping at night, seeing the images coming out from Gaza? We're here with Britain's most senior military official. He's on his way to Parliament, but he won't answer questions from the press about why the Royal Air Force has sent over 500 surveillance flights over Gaza since December 2023. He won't tell us how much those cost, even though he's going to a Public Accounts Committee to talk about the defence budget. And he won't tell us why he keeps sharing intelligence with Israel, a country that's being investigated for genocide, a country whose Prime Minister is wanted for war crimes, including the crime of starvation, by the International Criminal Court, and we are being pushed away from him by armed police who are escorting him into Parliament. Why won't you answer these basic questions about what the Royal Air Force is doing over Gaza and the intelligence it's sharing with Israel? Do you routinely share intelligence with countries whose leaders are wanted for war crimes by the International Criminal Court, Admiral? Are you a participant in Israel's genocide, Admiral? Do you have blood on your hands, Admiral?
Silence.
Do you have blood on your hands?
To hide about the intelligence that you've been sharing with Israel. So that was Admiral Radican, the Chief of the Defence Staff, Britain's most senior military officer, who's just gone into Parliament behind me to answer questions from the Public Accounts Committee about the defence budget. But he won't answer questions from MPs and from the press about how much the Royal Air Force has spent on over 500 surveillance flights over Gaza. And yet when we try and put these questions to Admiral Radican, we were being blocked there by the police.
Yep. They don't want to answer any of these questions. And as Jonathan Cook says, this is what real journalism looks like. Go ahead.
Especially when it comes to the fact that they've been using their flights for continued spying, continued assist of Israel, among other, like their own citizens over there coming back, committing their own genocide. Right. So, yeah, I mean, it's just despicable.
So, as Jonathan Cook says, this is what real journalism looks like. You may notice that you'll never see Guardian or the BBC doing this, holding senior UK defense, quote-unquote, officials. And who's exactly attacking the UK again? Directly to account for their active role in assisting Israel in committing war crimes. All right. So that's number one. And guess what? They did it again. The other day or today. I noticed they put it up actually earlier today, noon Eastern. I saw this one, and let me give it context. What is this? UK Trade Secretary has approved arms sales to Israel and is negotiating a trade agreement right now with Tel Aviv. So they confronted him about his complicity in genocide. And of course, what did he do? He ran away. We've got about 2 minutes here. Here we go.
Minister Reynolds, why are you still allowing arms exports to Israel?
We have
Our British
already
fighter
made measures
jets
on
are
that.
being used to
You're
kill
incorrect on that.
children in Gaza, sir. Do you have blood on your hands, Minister Reynolds? Why can't you stop these arms exports? Are the US not letting you? Do you have blood on your hands, sir? So I'm outside Chatham House where Jonathan Reynolds, the Business and Trade Secretary, has just gone in for a speech at a global trade event. We asked him why Britain is still allowing arms exports to Israel. Although there's supposedly an embargo, we know that fighter jet parts for Israel's most deadly fighter jets are still being allowed to leave British factories. They go off to the US, where they're then onwards exported to Israel.
I mean, on your question on the trade strategy.
In genocide, this government is still exporting F-35 parts for Israel. Stop arming Israel!
Yeah, myself and one other activist got up, took out Palestine flags, got up on the stage in front of Jonathan Reynolds and told him he was complicit in genocide because he's the one who licenses arms exports, including parts for F-35 fighter jets, which just last week Israel used to massacre 400 people.
For this invite, for this lovely...
This man and his government are complicit in genocide.
Excuse me, sir.
The F-35s are massacring Palestinians, and they have not stopped the trade of F-35s. 400 Palestinians killed last
Double
year.
leg.
200 children. One of the largest massacres of Palestinian children in history.
I mean, it was very physical. They weren't happy that we were there. The thing is, we will continue to show up wherever they go. And
Legend.
The most important message is to center the people of Gaza. And the risks that we take are nothing compared to the dangers that they face every single day. And it's our moral duty to make these forms of complicity visible, whether that involves a small risk to ourselves or not.
And incredible journalism by Declassified UK to go out there in the street and actually hold their leaders to account. Nobody's really doing that much here. I've seen it a little bit, but they insulate themselves so much with security, and they'll mostly do the same thing. Yeah. We see that a lot. Honestly, the person that we see doing it the most, although I believe it's done mostly for show and they dismiss it and they almost laugh about it, is when we see Medea Benjamin do that. She's probably the most prominent person I know that does that, especially with a camera on. But I don't know how much weight it actually carries with the Congress people when they say it, and when she confronts them. The video afterwards is powerful. Absolutely compelling and powerful afterwards, which is exactly why she does it, because she gets a lot of value out of it. What is it affecting? I don't know. So support Declassified for sure. Support Jonathan Cook and support INN. That was a short clip, a short segment. And again, we are only user funded here. We don't take any corporate funding and we don't take any sponsor funding. So anything you can do, Cash App, $ Indie News Network, ko-fi.com/Indie News Network, paypal.me/Indie News Network, and INNnewsletter.com or IndieMediaToday.com. You can subscribe at either one of those for free or pick up a paid subscription if you're able. Support independent media because we need it more than ever. I love you all. Have a good night, everyone.
Keep listening to what Little Boats have to tell you. See you in a bit, fam.
Bye, Felicia.
No! We just fucking lost the stream!
Can keep giving us nothing and think we're bluffing about coming for your heads. Why play civil if you won't listen to 50,000 dead? And now we know our mission, we form a militia, make Congress a prison. No, I play civil when all these dead won't make you listen. What's more American than slaying your oppressors? What's more American than liberty or death first? God, I thought we were founded on abolishing the tyranny of those who would starve a village all to live empirically. And I regret that I have only one life to give for my cause now that I can see the cause so clearly. See, I want our leaders, regardless of party, to fear me.
are these people?
All right.
The only British people Indy likes. They're great.
No, that's not true. We're about to get to some other ones. Well, first of all, Laura at Normal Island News, I have a real thing for her, even though she's not real.
If that is your real name.
Even though she's not a real human being and it's a parody account and it's an anon, and I adore that account. It just warms my heart. But here's another one. Connected with Laura is Ricky Hale and Council of State Media. I really do like the work that they do as well. They are a 2024 Indie Media Award honoree for Top Outlet. And they came out with, again, more documentation about the UK. It's funny, this is a very UK-focused, international-focused show tonight. But this time, Freedom of Information documents show that, of course, Israel's behind the crackdown on dissent in the UK. Now, I don't know that anybody's really surprised by this. As he says, this should surprise no one. But now we've actually got it in writing. And we've seen a couple outlets
cover it recently, too.
Right?
You know, Declassified touched on it. I think Grayzone touched on it.
They did?
Clarenberg did, I think, specifically.
Yep.
If I'm not mistaken.
Lots of award-winning journalists, which is why we're going to talk about it. So as Ricky states, you know how
Israel essentially, like, I mean, they've requested police crackdown specifically on multiple journalists, so, which I'm sure you're about to tell us.
Yep. So he says, you know how we've seen a massive wave of suppression in the UK with journalists, activists, social media users, and protesters being treated as terrorists? Right. Well, you'll be unsurprised to hear this was being coordinated with the Israeli embassy. I wonder if that also was happening in Canada. A series of Freedom of Information requests have shown that Israeli interference in our justice system is extensive. Such interference is completely illegal, of course, not that anything will happen. Released emails discuss the introduction of moves to crack down on dissent, such as the Police, Crime, and Sentencing and Courts Act, and coordination with Facebook and Instagram. They've done that in the United States, too. They showed the Israeli embassy pressured Attorney General's office, to clamp down on pro-Palestinian protests, just like here. And arms manufacturer Elbit Systems was regularly meeting with high-ranking officials. That's right. And they've been pressured quite a bit by protesters and activists.
Palestinian Action.
Yep.
Correct.
So redactions in the documents were justified by the Attorney General's office as the details would be likely to prejudice the UK's relations with Israel. You think? It shouldn't, because they have free speech laws in England, but apparently not. Basically, we can't know the full extent to which Israel is even interfering in our politics, because this would, of course, upset Israel. That sounds very much like Laura, by the way. The documents.
Oh, no.
The documents demonstrate that Israel holds influence over government ministers, the Attorney General's office, the Crown Prosecution Service, and the police. And by the way, Prime Minister Keir Starmer as well. We've talked about how he sleeps next to the 98th most influential Zionist in the world, according to the World Zionist Congress. The latest revolution is that the AGO passed on contact details of the CPS and counterterrorism police to the Israeli embassy in a heavily redacted email. Needless to say, the CPS is supposed to be operationally independent, and there's no reason for the Israeli embassy to be in contact with it, you would think. So they got this email sent by Nicola Smith, the head of international law at the AGO, to Daniela Grutsky-Eckstein, who is Israel's deputy ambassador to the UK. And what we see again is very little, although it says Nicola Smith to Israelis re CPS SOIS contact details. So right there, you've got something. There again, here it says it's the subject contacts CPS SO15 is what it is. Okay, and then everything else is redacted other than let me know if you have any questions. What do you think they're giving them there and what they're asking for there? Yeah. Smith and Eckstein had met 11 days prior to this email. All we know is that they discussed the people who had worked on the Palestine Action case. We're not allowed to know any further details about the conversation. Isn't that nice? That's full transparency, right?
He's nice.
I think so. This is just the latest piece of evidence of Israel interfering in the Palestine action case. The CPS was having great difficulty prosecuting members of Palestine Action and other activists because when they appeared in court, juries would acquit them. Would acquit them? Well, how about that? Because they were exercising free speech and not breaking the law? Yeah. Therefore,
if the gloves fit.
Well, this isn't the United States, man. Therefore, politicians started.
In the UK, apparently they do have a right to freedom of expression, but it has restrictions that include terrorisms and hate speech and yada, yada, yada. So, FYI.
Sure.
But, yeah, continue.
So politicians started pressuring judges into not allowing defendants to explain their motivations so they could not elicit sympathy from the jury. What? How can justice possibly be served if you can't explain why you did something? No, they're just allowing themselves to frame the narrative and send you away. It sounds like how they're sending people to Zikit without charges or without any say. The rules were changed during Suella Braverman's reign of terror so that the European Convention on Human Rights would not apply in such cases, especially Julian Assange. The defendants were treated as terrorists even when they weren't charged under the Terrorism Act, even when the alleged crimes wouldn't constitute terrorism according to international legal standards. All of this was done to clamp down on dissent and protect the genocidal state of Israel and quiet not just dissent, but protest against their murdering of babies and children daily with U.S. bombs and British spy flights. One internal file admitted, quote, Palestine Action does not meet the threshold for proscription as they do not commit, participate in, prepare for, promote, encourage, or otherwise be concerned with acts of terrorism, unquote. But that doesn't matter. Despite this, the members of Palestine Action, which are the so-called Filton 18, have been in prison for over 8 months without trial because they tried to stop the UK sending arms to Israel so it can blow up children, as I said a minute ago. How can it be a crime when the UK has suspended some arms licenses on the basis that Israel is already violating international humanitarian law? I love it. It's only some arms licenses.
You violated the law.
Unbelievable. All right. If someone's going to shoot a child and you take that gun and you destroy it, you're not in the wrong. And that's essentially what Palestine Action has done. In August of last year, members of Palestine Action drove a modified prison van into an Elbit Systems factory in Bristol, causing £1 million worth of damage. The team dismantled weapon systems, including the quadcopters that mimic the sound of women and children crying to lure Palestinians into the open to be shot. Yes, I'll read that again because that sounds vaguely important. The team dismantled weapon systems, including the quadcopters that mimic the sound of women and children crying to lure Palestinians into the open to be shot, because they have humanitarian feelings and want to save someone who is crying or help them. And of course, Israel needs to prey upon that humanity and murder the people that go out to try to do that. Isn't that nice? So, of course, let's lock up the people that are trying to destroy the weapons that do that. These weapons were being sent to Israel to commit war crimes, but no one in the UK has been prosecuted for facilitating those war crimes. No surprise. I think our so-called justice system is a bit upside down, don't you? Revolution continues saying, shut Elbit Systems down worldwide. I totally agree over on Substack. None of the Filton 18 were charged with terrorism offenses, yet they've had their rights restricted as though they were, with limits on their legal support, family visits, healthcare, and religious rights while they await trial. Again, this sounds very similar to how they treated Julian Assange. This is because they were arrested under powers granted by the Terrorism Act. How can this be anything other than an abuse of power? The problem is, who holds them accountable? They're already the people in power. It's not just the Israeli embassy that's been interfering in our justice system, of course. Freedom of Information documents show that Home Office ministers and staff have been pressuring police and prosecutors to act against Palestine action since way before October 7th. Remember, folks, this didn't start October 7th. None of this did. Their goal already was to reassure Elbit systems. Again, profits over people all the time. Defense contractors over the people that they are sending the weapons to Israel to murder. Absurdly, a briefing note for one meeting read, quote, "A director from the Attorney General's office will be attending to represent the CPS. The CPS declined to participate in this meeting to preserve their operational independence," unquote. They don't even want anything to do with this. The note admits that such a meeting would jeopardize operational independence, yet the CPS sent a representative anyway? Clearly, if you're sending a representative to the meeting, you're not preserving your operational independence. Documents confirm ministers, police, and the CPS and Attorney General were meeting with Elbit Systems to discuss Palestine action, but the details were redacted, as a Jesse Jet song very famously says also. One meeting with Elbit was attended by 3 members of Yvette Cooper's home office. That's, again, it's merger of state and private entity and defense contractor. I mean, there's a word for that, right? Yep. I believe it begins with F.
I do believe so.
Sure. So
that's just close enough.
How can it be justifiable for Elbit Systems to be meeting with such people?
Who are these people?
Not good people, I'll tell you right now. Even if you see the arms manufacturer as a victim of a crime, the only people it needs to be speaking to are police. Elbit just needs to hand over its evidence and submit witness statements. That's it. Anything beyond that is political interference. It's also collusion. It's worse than political interference. Ominously, it's been revealed by Declassified UK. Even. Yeah, maybe, sure. But either way, it's a merger of defense and state and private enterprise and the media and now the courts.
Yep. He who controls the space controls the universe.
Ominously, it's been revealed by Declassified UK that Elbit Systems has its own intelligence cell that coordinates with British police on a bi-weekly basis. How about that? An Israeli arms manufacturer is not just building its weapons of genocide here, it's literally spying on our citizens and telling police who to prosecute. Sounds like Beitar that's setting up operations in the United States and handing lists over to the President of the United States of who to prosecute and deport.
Yep.
Such interference surely violates the Crown Prosecution Service's General Principle 2.1. Quote, "The independence of the prosecutor is central to the criminal justice system of a democratic society. Prosecutors are independent from persons or agencies that are not part of the prosecution decision-making process." Again, prosecutors are independent from persons or agencies that are not part of the prosecution decision-making process, like Elbit Systems.
Okay.
CPS prosecutors are also independent from the police, not in this case, and other investigators, or should be. Prosecutors must be free to carry out their professional duties without political interference and must not be affected by improper or undue pressure or influence from any source. So who's suing these motherfuckers? That's what I want to know.
Nobody. That's who.
It's worth pointing out that not only do government ministers interfere to prosecute opponents of Israel, they interfere to protect suspected war criminals, such as Tzipi Livni and Gideon Saar. In the latter case, the UK Foreign Secretary David Lammy, he gaslit everyone on World Press Freedom Day, we'll get into that in a minute, held a secret meeting with his Israeli counterpart and personally ensured he would not face arrest. which is why I believe we showed on the show when Declassified UK confronted the Israeli minister that tried to sneak into that meeting with Lamy. If he can protect suspected war criminals, he can protect those who oppose war criminals, but no, definitely not. Not eat the rich. Not Motorhead. But he can obviously protect those who oppose war criminals, but he chooses not to. In fact, our government does the opposite. The clear evidence of political interference in the Filton 18 cases has led to calls for the charges to be dropped. In a democracy, any court case would be free from political interference, yet we have interference not just from our own government, but from a foreign government too. How can anybody possibly say justice is going to be served? And again, that's Ricky, Council of State Media, Indie Media Award honoree. This is from his publication, The Dystopian Times. Go subscribe to that. Good dude. Also, Sana Saeed posted something yesterday, was May 3rd, World Press Freedom Day. So you know we were gaslit like crazy by every world government that has been suppressing free speech, that has been prosecuting activists and persecuting journalists, and in Israel's case, murdering journalists. On this World Press Freedom Day, as Sana Saeed, independent journalist formerly of AJ Plus, writes, the Palestinian journalist Ahmad Bassam sends a message from a besieged Gaza. There is no press freedom without the freedom of Palestinian journalists. Over 200 Palestinian journalists and media workers have been killed by the Israelis, purposely targeted, while their slaughter ignored by our press industry. Not just them, but in some cases their entire families as well, because they decided to report on what Israel was doing to where they lived. Our only insight into what's been done to the Palestinians in Gaza, what crimes the US, UK, and Israel have committed, as well as others, has been solely through the efforts of these brave men and women. So let's watch this short video here. Oh, that's cut off. Undo.
I was asked by the Palestinian Journalist Syndicate to stand before you today because I speak English. But you don't need to be speaking more than one language to be able to describe what is being perpetrated here. In fact, very often you don't need words at all. A rolling camera is all it takes to capture crimes that humanity should have never seen. Crimes that our throats went hoarse, screaming and calling on you to stop. For over 574 days, we've been here reporting the ongoing killing of children, women, and civilians, and the wiping out of families. We've been reporting to you exclusive stories of massacred families, of carpet bombings, of children burned in their tents, of babies starved, denied milk. Reporting it to you because partially you can't get in here, but largely because it's our own duty to live stream a genocide against us to you. A genocide that claimed more than 52,000 souls of our children, families, and friends. How have we been rewarded? We've become targets and death counters. We have reported and witnessed the deliberate killing of at least 212 of Palestinian journalists inside the Gaza Strip. 10 of them were burned alive right outside that wall last month. And more will die, denied treatment they desperately need, suffering here. And the toll will rise and rise as you allow this genocide to continue. And today, on the World's Day of Press Freedom, we stand here to remind the world that the press in Gaza is bleeding and is taken hostage by the most depraved occupation in modern history. We stand, have questions to journalists around the world. who choose to stand silent before the corpses of their Palestinian journalists, asking them, are we less worthy of freedom than you are? Are we less worthy of life than you are? But we also stand to salute and send our deepest respect to every free journalist and every free person who refused to sell their voices despite temptations and intimidation, and continue to share the truth we broadcast here, to stand by our side as if they were among us. And finally, to the free world, we are exhausted and have every right to take off these useless vests. But we won't, because as we stand today, we once again vow for the blood of every child and every journalist the Israeli occupation has killed here and elsewhere, that we will not forget them. We've done our part. We'll keep it on. And it's about time you start doing yours. Thank you.
The press is free.
Man. And he's right. You know, them wearing those vests puts a target on their back.
Is a target. Yeah.
I mean, if I knew that putting that on would put a target on my back every day, would I do it? Man, that's dedication, honestly. And we don't have a free press. These people are not reported on. They're smeared in the public press, in the corporate media, and their stories are not told. And then they're treated as less than human. And it's disgraceful the way that most people have ignored this story. We have been covering it here since before October 7th, but of course, largely since October 8th, which is when Israel decided to start dropping bombs like crazy on Gaza. And they haven't stopped, other than even during their ceasefire, they were murdering Palestinians. And right now there's been a ceasefire in Lebanon and over 50 Lebanese have been killed since then. They don't cease fire. Ceasefire is just you stop, Israel keeps killing. That's what we've learned.
Yep.
So
Rafat al-Arir's
that
famous words.
Very famous. In addition, we also have Issa Amro, who reported yesterday that the soldiers raided his house today. They wanted revenge from him for participating in the BBC documentary. Where are we here? There we go. He was participating in the BBC documentary, The Settlers. Okay. That's after the army left the settlers, raided his house. All right. They injured one activist and cut the tree. They stole tools and the garage and garbage containers. I mean, all right. The Israeli police officer then came to threaten him not to file a complaint. So he'll be arrested for trying to push the settlers outside his house. It's apartheid. All right. Why didn't that turn brief back on? It was supposed to. That was weird. Sorry, man. There he goes. All right.
All right.
No, my son. Very famous.
Me?
No.
Son, no, my son.
Very famous.
Me?
No. No, me.
You?
Yeah.
Why you have your face if you are famous?
You know exactly why.
No.
Yeah,
because you're doing something wrong.
No, it's because I'm too beautiful to see you,
No, no, come on. It's not about that.
I'm too beautiful to show myself to you.
No, look my face.
None of them wants to show their faces.
I never cover my face. But
Notice how they all know English.
why you cover it? It's an army. It's not you. It's an army. You do what the army tells you.
And you send.
No, my son.
Very famous.
Me?
No. No, me.
You?
There we go.
Why you have your face if you are famous?
You know exactly why.
No.
Yeah,
because you're doing something wrong.
No, it's because I'm too beautiful to see you.
No, no, come on. It's not about that.
I'm too beautiful to show myself to you.
No, look my face. I never cover it. I never cover my face.
Because
But
you don't need to cover it.
no, I don't need. Why you cover it? It's an army. It's not you. It's an army. You do what the army tells you. And you send it to Gaza now.
To where?
To Gaza now.
Who's in Gaza?
To BBC, to Shobrim Shtika,
So what
to
is wrong?
B'Tselem.
What is wrong? B'Tselem is an Israeli human rights organization breaking the silence. They were ex-soldiers from Nahal, from the same unit as you are. BBC is a friend of Israel.
Of course.
Yeah, Gaza. Are you afraid of Gaza anymore?
No. They are my friends, Gaza. No, my son.
Me?
Right? So that's the first video.
Hayan! Hayan! Hayan!
Settlers looks like.
Yep, sure is. What are they doing? They just want to mess with them.
Yep.
The guy who talked to the BBC is the one who's in trouble. Yeah, why are they? Because they just want to. They want to go in his house. They're just screwing with him like they're teenage douchebag kids.
Common tactic. Underhooks, homie.
Well, the problem is if you start fighting with them, they're gonna there's 12 of them. They'll just jump on them and start kicking them.
Yeah, it's just you don't let them have free underhooks.
Again, this is because he spoke to the BBC about what the settlers do to him, and now they're doing exactly what he told the BBC they'd do to him. Just so everybody knows clearly what's going on here. Now they're just overtaking this man's property. Why? What are they doing there? They start unplugging things. Now the soldiers are stopping the guys from stopping them.
بطل امسك تليفونك ابن تعال خليك جنبي ابو عادل هون سكر.
All right, now it looks like the soldiers pushing the guys back. But he's telling the people who live there to let him deal with it. Oh, it's a mess. All right, and then you had.
I can. I
wish I had a translation there. Oh, and that's the tree that they cut. Just to, again, further screw with him. All right. They cut the tree, they injured an activist, and they stole tools and the garbage containers.
The police officer came to threaten me not to file a complaint. If so, I will be arrested for trying to push the settlers outside my house. Which is just... I don't know how that's...
So, Caitlin Johnstone says...
I mean,
so
again,
Israelis... Right. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was just saying, like, again, they completely control everything. So, of course, that's the case. But I don't know how anyone other than, fuck, man. You know?
It's so frustrating. Ugh. Yeah. So Israelis not only murder journalists, attack journalistic institutions, and block journalists from entering the Gaza Strip, they also persecute Palestinian civilians who speak with journalists, Western journalists.
Yeah.
They don't want any of this information to get out there because anyone who finds out what the hell they're doing immediately knows that it's wrong and should be stopped. Similar thread to what's happening to here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of which,
same thing that happened to the Oscar guy as well, the one that won the Oscar.
yes, somebody actually mentioned over Cindy, the revolution continues. Just like the settlers and the IDF beat up the director and producer of No Other Land, the Oscar-winning, award-winning producer. Right. Yeah. And we thought the cops were bad in the U.S. Guess who trains the cops? Welcome, Michael Ginsberg over on Substack. Good to see you, man. Gen X Girl is a friend of the network, friend of the show. I've done a couple of one-on-ones with her. We are scheduled to do another one coming up this week, and this is going to be one of the things that we're going to talk about. So I wanted to set it up a little bit. She found something really, really interesting the other day. So the ADL, we all know the ADL is a shit organization that has literally been deemed by Wikipedia to be not credible and completely biased, partisan, and not legitimate. So what she found is that on their website, they have been co-publishing and co-producing these videos and documents with an organization called Builders for Tomorrow. So she starts looking into who is Builders for Tomorrow. And as it turns out, this is an organization that does not exist really at all. So they purport themselves to be a venture philanthropy and research organization focused on combating anti-Jewish and anti-West ideologies. Again, anti-Semitism is not anti-Zionism, assholes. Stop doing that. It is led by industry leaders from the tech.
Palestinians are Semitic, so good luck with that.
Correct.
You know,
but it claims to be led by industry leaders from the tech community who've built some of the most consequential technology companies. Who are they? As a venture philanthropy platform, BFT provides grants to whom and how much, and accelerates the most promising teams and ideas. Where? In terms of research, BFT leverages cutting-edge advances in generative AI, and large language models, LLMs, to address pressing global challenges. Sure. The group conducts research across three core areas: combating misinformation online, sounds like the censorship industrial complex to me reinvented; identifying bad actors engaged in criminal activities. Don't we have like online cops for that, and police and FBI and other agencies to handle that through the government? And helping to scale the most promising emerging news and social media accounts that shape public discourse. So basically, they're providing spam and bot support to the most promising emerging news and social media accounts. They're artificially inflating propaganda.
I smell Unit 8200.
Oh, very much. You might be right. So let's read what Gen X Girl learns. Who is Builders for Tomorrow? The ADL and BFT co-produced reports claiming that AI and Wikipedia are biased against Israel, urging Congress to censor. Of course they do. So she described what the non-existent BFT is described as, but here's the thing. They're virtually non-existent as an organization, aside from the references in the ADL reports, which state that the reports were co-produced with BFT, and provides a summary at the bottom about BFT, which we read. It's about who they are and what they are. We read that whole thing. She says, this is highly alarming, given ADL's push for Congress to use these reports to censor and tailor data regarding Israel for AI training and large language models, and regulate or censor Wikipedia for anti-Israel bias. They argue that AI is trained in large part using Wikipedia, and claim that Wikipedia is infiltrated by pro-Hamas editors that create anti-Israel narratives. You mean at the CIA? Because that's who really edits Wikipedia the most, we've learned. ADL's attack on Wikipedia is a retaliation for Wikipedia designating ADL as an unreliable source in 2024. Even Wikipedia knows it. ADL is in fact an unreliable source. The Jewish Currents audited ADL's 2023 anti-Semitism report and determined that 44% of the report was not anti-Semitism because it was just anything that mentioned the word Palestine or that was a protest on behalf of stopping Israel from bombing civilians.
Right.
And they concluded that the ADL is an unreliable source because it is beholden to pro-Israel advocacy. Absolutely. Now it appears that the ADL is attempting to retaliate by censoring its critics through congressional legislation in order to force Wikipedia back under pro-Israel control. To create a sense of crisis, as the ADL often does, they partnered with tech leaders via BFT to make the argument that Wikipedia is an epidemic problem because it's training AI. So, who are the people behind BFT? Who are they affiliated with? What are their foreign ties, given their focus on anti-Israel bias? No one knows. After extensive searches using various search engines, Safari, Kaji, Yandex, as well as DeepSeek, Instagram's AI, and Twitter's Grok, see the second post for Grok's analysis, no information exists. They don't exist. They're a myth. They're a wraith. They exist on paper only by the ADL. There's nothing about BFT. They don't have a website. They don't have an address. They don't have a phone number. There's nothing about its funding. There's nothing about individuals or entities affiliated with this organization. There's no state registration information. The closest she found is in 1962, a not-for-profit organization was registered in New York called Builders for Tomorrow, Inc. They're listed as active, but the file, of course, doesn't have any names or addresses for the entity. What a surprise. It could literally just be some Zionist in New York that bought it and has been paying to keep it alive since the 1960s, literally. She says it's important that we find out who's behind BFT because we can't rely on Congress to investigate. They'll simply take the legislation handed to them along with the talking points developed by the ADL and push for censorship. She's absolutely right.
It's a mystery. It's a mystery wrapped in a riddle inside an enigma.
No, it's not. It's Israel. Every time, it's Israel. It's very simple. It's not a mystery at all. All right? So here's the Grok summary. And again, I don't necessarily put a lot of stock in Grok. Very funny. That rhymes. But I find that garbage in, garbage out. And they look at a lot of garbage as well as a platform. And they are taking in a lot of not necessarily true information and measuring that with what might be true information and coming up with somewhere in between. And that's what Grok is. And that's what all of AI is. All right. According to this, it says at the end, it gives all the available information is limited with the primary source being the description from the ADL. Despite extensive searches across web sources, social media platforms, and other public records, no additional definitive details about their leadership, specific affiliated individuals, or operational entities have surfaced. Right? So
I can't tell you that. It's classified.
I could tell you, but then I'd have to kill you. That's right. So again, no reputable sources beyond the ADL description provide specific information about BFT's founders, board members, or operational structure. The organization does not appear to have a public website or official social media presence based on current data, which is exactly what you would expect from an organization that monitors social media and tries to find people, having negative activity that might affect Israel. How the fuck do they do that if they don't even exist as an organization on social media? All right. Posts on Twitter mentioning Builders for Tomorrow.
What's up with that? What's up with that?
What's up with that? All right. The ADL is the only related organization, is a well-known organization focused on combating anti-Semitism and hate. That's not exactly true either. However, their mention of BFT does not include links to additional resources or a BFT website. Very much in the right-wing newsosphere that I've been calling out recently, and I found another person who calls himself World Independent News that very similarly doesn't have a website and basically just has a Twitter handle and never puts a link to anything that he references ever. No receipts. Guy's got 65,000 Twitter followers. Given BFT's tech leadership and focus on AI, it's possible that leaders from major tech firms could be involved, but no evidence confirms this. The ADL's description suggests a high-profile group, yet their low public profile is unusual for such an organization. Yeah, I would say that it's unusual. I also suspect one of the very prominent, popular, very well-known billionaires, potentially, who are very outspoken on behalf of Israel, maybe somebody with the last name of Ackman, to be behind something like this. Okay? Or even...
Shit, throw a rock at the billionaires.
Even
you'll find one.
Alex Karp could be one of them, potentially, Palantir. He's very mysterious. He knows how to play stuff, but the fact that there's no organization registered anywhere in any state or anywhere other than this 1962 obscure thing in New York, red flag upon red flag upon red flag. So I'm excited to talk to Gen X Girl about this even further. Love her. She's doing great work at Gen X Girl 1994 over on the Twitters. If you have not already followed her there, please do so. She, again, is doing great work, and she's growing her presence. And again, we've already done 2 one-on-ones, INN one-on-ones, so by all means, check that out. And we're going to record another one. That'll probably be out this Saturday is my plan to put it out. It's unbelievable that they get away with all this stuff in the UK. It's all colluded. Yep. But now I'm starting to really question whether the Assange stuff, now that I'm seeing how similar in vein it is to what they're doing, what Israel is doing to the protesters and journalists now, were they the ones that were actually behind this entire thing the entire time with Assange because he was pro-Palestine? And while it was the U.S. that was directing it, was it Israel directing the U.S. to direct that? It seems that because of the way the tactics that are being used, it seems to be orchestrated out of Tel Aviv. Maybe I'm wrong. And I think that's why we made a deal to let...
He's got a point.
I think that's why we made a deal to get Julian out when we did, the U.S. government. I know they did not want to fly him here, and they did not want to have a public trial that would have put the entire journalistic thing on trial, on top of the fact that they didn't want to even acknowledge his First Amendment rights. That sounds very similar again to what they're doing to the Venezuelan migrants that are here, that they don't want to acknowledge their First Amendment rights. Okay. Yeah. Interesting. Interesting thought. Interesting question. And as I was seeing that and just reading it now and watching those videos, I'm like, we see a pattern here, and it's not all coming out of the U.S. and it's not all coming out of CIA. Remember, there's very little continuity in CIA, in a lot of our intel agencies, especially at the top. You've got the deep state, but the decision making that happens at the top, we've had turnover. You know who hasn't? Israel. Now they have. Now they've started to turn over because it was unpopular. But you had Gallant and Ben-Gvir and Smotrich and Netanyahu in power for quite a while. All right. So could it have been that since 2019, those 4 have been the power source in Israel that also had a tremendous effect over our intel community? That was our fuck Israel segment for the night. We do one of those like every week. We kind of have to. Let me ask one more time to support independent media if you can. We are solely user funded. We do not take sponsor money. We do not do ad reads. We do not have promo codes. We have you, and we have these incredible people that have supported our network. A lot of them are in chat right now, hanging out, and they support the media they want to see. Support independent media because we need it more than ever. I love you all. Have a good night, everyone.
Keep listening to what Little Boats have to tell you. See you in a bit, fam.
Bye, Felicia.
No! We just fucking lost the stream!
Can't keep giving us nothing and think we're bluffing about coming for your heads. Why play civil if you won't listen to 50,000 dead? And now we know our mission, we form a militia, make Congress a prison. No, I play civil when all these dead won't make you listen. What's more American than slaying your oppressors? What's more American than liberty or death first? God, I thought we were founded on abolishing the tyranny of those who would starve a village all to live empirically. And I regret that I have only one life to give for my cause now that I can see the cause so clearly. See, I want our leaders, regardless of party, to fear me.
Who are these people?
We're going to bring a positive story about a little bit of a W that that our side, quote unquote, that the anti-imperialist, anti-Zionist side has won. I found 2 of them in the past week. Well, plus Ramesia Ozturk, which is sort of a win, but also sort of not a win, which we're going to get into in more detail later on. All right. But this is a Left Voice article. Left Voice is a Indie Media Award honoree from initial class for one of the best independent outlets that does not take any sponsor funding. They're affiliated with La Izquierda Diario from Argentina and a worldwide coalition of independent sites. So in the U.S., it's Left Voice. Rita Singer and Kyle Thibodeau, a report from Michigan, that Power and Struggle felony charges dropped against
there too.
Maybe.
What?
But Power and Struggle felony charges dropped against encampment protesters. So finally, a little bit of a break in the wall. All right. The felony charges from last year's University of Michigan encampment have been dropped. We should mark this as a victory. So I'm going to read this article. It's pretty short. It talks a little bit about the encampment, but also remember we covered a raid a couple of weeks ago that Dana Nessel, their attorney general, was involved in also, where they broke down the doors of some of these protesters, graduate students, and like arrested. I don't even know if they arrested them, but they trampled the place. They woke them up at 5 a.m, putting guns in their faces and shit. Like, no need for that. So on May 5th, Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel dropped felony charges against 7 protesters involved in last year's encampment on University of Michigan campus against the genocide in Gaza. In the same week, and this might have had something to do with it, University of Michigan President Santa J. Ono, I love that their president's name was Santa, resigned and took a new position at University of Florida. So that means that Santa was crushing anti-Zionist or anti-genocide protests. Literally, they had Santa crushing them. In explaining her reasoning for dropping the charges, Nessel noted
they were naughty.
They were very naughty. Nessel noted that the cases had become a lightning rod of contention.
I feel like this is just the next Santa Claus movie,
Santa Ono.
What's his name?
Santa. Oh no! Don't cancel the protest. Oh no! Santa.
Who's the
no.
home improvement guy?
Tim Allen.
Tim Allen. That's it.
There was a Jesse Jet told a hilarious story about Tim Allen and that his phone heard him make that noise and all of a sudden started suggesting home improvement stuff and stuff with Tim Allen in it. the Santa Claus and other movies that dude messed up. All right. So as Kyle continues, as Kyle and Rita, this is a win for the movement and shows the difference that collective resistance can make. Not only can protests and campaigns against repression be effective strategically, they can serve as the basis for the fight to build a strong movement that includes the strategic power of the working class. They show why we need to fight to keep the movement alive. And they show why a militant defense of democratic demands can build the collective experience we need to grow stronger as a movement of international solidarity. All right. As encampments spread across the country and the world last spring in the biggest student uprising since the anti-Vietnam War demonstrations, universities and colleges cracked down. On many campuses, the administrators invited police raids to break up and demolish the student encampments, complete with live streams and news reports of many violent arrests of students and faculty. The only people who were violent, by the way, were the cops and the Zionists, 99% of the time. In other cases, the administrations were able to negotiate with protesters to get them to leave on their own. Many university administrations brought criminal charges against those protesting the genocide. We've still been seeing that even in Colombia. They've still been kicking them out of school. While most of those charges were dropped within a couple of months, by the spring of 2025, some charges still remained. 7 felonies from the University of Michigan, 12 felonies from Stanford, 8 from City College of New York, and there have also been recent arrests, like we said, at Columbia, at Brooklyn College, and even Rutgers. All right. One thing that's notable, though, about both the University of Michigan and CUNY is that those are both public universities that lead into their public character to encourage community support. All right. At both schools, the protesters facing felony charges were mainly people who came from the community rather than people directly part of the university. That, again, is not a surprise. These people don't want to put their jobs on the line. All right. The repression of the movement in the U.S. is mirrored abroad. No surprise, as seen in the case of Anasi Kazib, a railway worker, union activist, and spokesman for Revolution Permanente, which is part of the international network, right, in France. Right.
Revolution.
Right. The French state.
Oh, French? Gotcha.
French
Revolution.
state decided to prosecute for a tweet in support of the Palestinian people. All right. I remember I think it might have been, was this the person that Richard Medhurst was talking about initially? There was like a Palestinian. Yeah.
French is the language of love.
Living in Paris or in France that they persecuted like crazy. I remember this story pretty clearly. All right. By employing the violence of the state, the ruling class was mostly able to stamp out the encampments, demobilize the movement, and keep us from reviving it. Especially when school was going to be starting up in the fall, Biden and the university administrations kept the level of repression high, which set the stage for Trump to then escalate further. Thanks, Obama. All right. Trump continued and expanded Biden's repression against the Palestinian liberation movement. I mean, against the protest movement here in the United States for Palestine liberation. All right. Using it to bolster his broad attacks on immigrants and wokeness. With this twisted combination, masked ICE officers have arrested multiple pro-Palestine students, visa holders, grabbing them from their homes like Mahmoud Khalil. Him, along with others, are currently under detention as political prisoners. But again, getting these felony charges dropped is important. Universities like Columbia, caving to Trump's dictates, also provided cover for a disciplining of the labor movement, especially evident in the firing and expulsion of Grant Minor because he participated in the Hens Hall protest. Minor is also a prominent Jewish voice denouncing these attacks on democratic rights and exposing how Trump and Colombia alike have been weaponizing false definitions of anti-Semitism to support the Zionist project. Again, to see a lot more of that, check out my 3 one-on-ones with Gen X Girl 1994. She's exposed Beitar US, who's come into the picture multiple times. Now they've been feeding the Trump administration lists, and now that's come out in FOIAs. At this point, Trump's audacious attacks have garnered enough pushback that he's had to backtrack. All right. After kidnapping Khalil and Ozturk, the administration proceeded to cancel hundreds of student visas. What a mess that was. They even challenged the protections guaranteed by a green card, which my whole life has been the same. But the public outburst was severe, and the Trump administration reinstated the visas. Did they? I thought they just reinstated the database, but they have not changed the status on those visas, to my understanding, making clear that they still intended to proceed with their attacks, but would need a more legally secure basis. I believe that they are still prosecuting. What they did, according to Arturo Dominguez, was that they actually deleted the database so that these students didn't know what their status was, and the schools weren't able to check what their status was. But once that database was reinstated, it didn't change the fact that they canceled over 1,300 visas for students. It just meant that the administration and the schools could now look up in a database that those visas were canceled. To my understanding, they have not reinstated it. So that's news to me if they have. All right. He says that this article says that this shows that the state couldn't just end the movement by co-opting it back into the fold of electoralism and had to resort to the armed wing of the state and courts to suppress the movement. Okay. This is a bipartisan affair. Totally agree. In pursuing charges against the encampment, Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel, a progressive Democrat. No, she's not. She doesn't even advertise herself as a progressive Democrat. She's a Democrat who stood up for reproductive rights and slapped back Trump's unconstitutional attacks. That's, again, bare minimum shit. Was hawkishly going on on the attack against the movement. All right. In fact, doing Trump's dirty work. It's also worth noting that she was the only attorney general in the country to do this. Not even the Texas AG did this. Recently, Nessel sent for FBI raids in multiple cities in Michigan against pro-Palestine activists, which we covered on the show from Left Voice, making it clear how close the Democrats are to Republicans on key issues. Uniparty, like we said. Left Voice already knew that it was a uniparty and was calling this out, and capitalism in general. They're an anti-capitalist outlet. They're an alliance to keep capitalism and the U.S. hegemony intact. Capitalism. That's right. Even if it means trampling on our civil rights and targeting violence against workers, okay, community members and students, and the elderly and women and children. They don't care. They're similar to the IOF in that way. All right. But militant resistance from the left is needed to pull back on this rightward swing. The problem is that most of the left ain't that militant and certainly isn't well trained and isn't going out and getting themselves trained, by my estimate.
The militants stand startled.
Maybe like Gracie training. I mean, what would you suggest, BJJ? Some type of.
Well, I mean, sure. Also, learning how to pull trigger fingers is useful. You know, also just look at protesting tactics and, you know, try to be inventive about how to, you know, circumvent them.
I actually shared something today on Twitter
how to fight
about that.
Is the suggestion. That's all. That's a useful tool. However
Right?
you want to do that.
Well,
Muay Thai, Jiu-Jitsu, wrestling.
Well, hand-to-hand that don't involve a trigger is what I was specifically referring to. But
Absolutely.
I actually found a website, and we'll look at that in a second, called The Markup. And they had a couple of decent tweets that I shared today about, number one, don't bring a phone and if you have to a protest, read this guide on what to do and how to act with it, what to do with it. Disable certain things.
I think I've covered that too.
Right. And then also about, is your home police department partnering with ICE? And it's a list of all of the police departments. Again, the markup over on Twitter.
Stalling as a tactic is probably learn how to stall things out physically, make it difficult for them.
Yeah.
If anything.
Yeah.
So
Nessel also did not drop the charges out of the kindness of her own heart. She was facing, quote, months of mounting political pressure from the progressive wing of her own party, according to the Detroit Metro Times, including a protest that disrupted Nessel taking the stage at February's Michigan Democratic Party convention in Detroit. That's nice. I don't really think that the public pressure of progressive Democrats really did anything. It's the donors. It's when the money starts drying up. It's when the people stop giving you money to fight for what you're fighting for, and then you figure out why, and it's because you're supporting genocide. Oh, you mean those people don't want to give you money, and if they're going to do that, they might as well give it to the Republicans that are in power now anyway? Oh. Yeah. With growing dissent from the left, Nessel concluded, I no longer believe these cases to be a prudent use of my department's resources. That's probably because her resources are about to be stripped significantly, my guess is, with Republicans in power. It was a tactical retreat, as there is no way the Democrats could take on Trump in the midterm elections as being defenders of our rights while carrying out unfounded punishment to repress the free speech of students. They certainly could, and they would totally gaslight everybody and act like they were, but Trump would eat them alive. If Trump had to back down on the student visas, the Democrats would look worse continuing with these charges. They would then look to the right of Trump on this shit. You understand?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The movement for Palestine, I don't know if Democrats even care about being to the right of Trump. Honestly, they'll just say they're not, but it's the Joker. The movement for Palestinian liberation can only be won on an international basis. We stand in solidarity with the Palestinians being persecuted by Israel to the point of forced starvation in Gaza and the West Bank. And we resist Zionist oppression in our local struggles for freedom of speech and freedom of assembly in the bowels of the imperial core. That's beautiful writing right there. It's like poetry. Our struggles are inextricably linked, because what they're using Gaza as an experiment for how they intend to treat the most extreme neighborhoods in the United States. Yes. We know this.
Yep.
The AI policing, the biometric stuff that we're going to talk in a minute about biometric stuff.
The digital currencies and
the CBDCs,
digital banking systems.
Yep.
And correct.
Yep. So building and protecting the movement within the U.S. and other imperialist countries, challenging the funders of genocide at home with BDS, even if they decide to make it illegal. They can't really make it illegal. I mean, you can decide where to spend your money and where not to spend your money, whether you say so or not. It's very hard to police that. All right. But challenging the funders and hurting them in the wallet is the key to strengthening the level of resistance possible within Palestine across the sea. We must fight for the abundance of food that the international workers produce daily under capitalism to get through that war zone into the mouths of the Palestinians that Israel is now cruelly starving out. Not now, has been for decades now, but now completely. Just as we must fight for the right to protest imperialism itself and assemble forces to build the strength to overthrow this racist patriarchal system from the inside out. Not administration, not presidency, system, baby. Wow, that was like I was a teenager again. It's a system. It's a systemic problem. We keep getting the same because it's garbage in, garbage out on the system. All right. As a global community, we must join our struggles and link the working class and oppressed across borders. We don't want genocide to ever benefit anybody. If we learn to strike strategically with all our might, if we really try hard, guys, we can win our freedom. We can win freedom for workers and the oppressed to infuse this spirit in a plan for a socialist international system. No, you need a plan first.
I call myself a joyful warrior.
I call you a drunken warrior. With this victory of getting the charges dropped at the University of Michigan, and that's, oh yeah, by the way, they dropped the federal felony charges against the University of Michigan from the Attorney General. The movement can see that the state is not invincible and can be combated by joining students, faculty, and the community in a united struggle for Palestine, linked nationally with other struggles of the working class and oppressed. Yeah, I mean, tie it to workers. Yes, sure. And workers should fight for divesting and for BDS and for higher wages, better working conditions, fewer working hours for same pay, etc. Trump doesn't have a mandate, and his attacks against democratic rights have received considerable pushback. In some ways, yes, but in a lot of other ways, not really. The more we push back as a united force, the more Trump will have to moderate the administration's attacks. It depends upon the way you push back. It's not just about pushing back as a united force. It's about methods, and it's about the avenues that you use to do that. Due to determined struggle, not duty. The Democratic Party, their duty, had to pull back their attacks against the movement in order to seem like a viable alternative to Trump. They haven't really. They still support Zionism, and they've just been in the shadows about it a little bit, but they're still there. This opens for the movement a little more space in order to unite our fight. A strategy that can win as we celebrate in getting the felonies dropped at U of M. Man, that's a lot of language just to get there. Now we have a moment to strengthen the movement nationally and internationally. This can be done through open democratic discussion where the rank and file sectors of the movement, students and workers, including through mass assemblies and public meetings, to discuss the current situation and debate what to do moving forward. I think a screening of Louis Theroux's The Settlers should also be included there. All right, I think that's instrumental in waking people up to just how bad it is. The minute they see it, they can't unsee it. We must find ways to connect and share about the processes and conclusions of our struggles along the way. By utilizing our strength in numbers and our creativity, we continue the next battle of the fight, secure the release of the Rutgers protester from jail, drop the Rutgers charges, drop the CUNY 8 charges, drop the charges against Anase Kazib, and at the same time, we must tighten our ranks to be ready for any future repression that will certainly be targeting the movement, like infiltrators who are constantly on their way in, trying to ingratiate themselves and eventually torpedo and cause drama, infighting, and derailing movements. That's the whole point of sending in those type of agents, chaos agents. All right. Ghost Star, thank you. Day 71. Ceasefire airdrop from China, who ignored everything and said, fuck it, we're doing it anyway. China. But no trucks or aid. And it's just as awful as it gets. And there has been some movement on that this week. Allegedly, Trump made a deal to get the one American hostage out. He made a deal with Yemen, allegedly without Israel at the table, which got them very upset. It got a lot of people thinking that there was some kind of a rift there. And Bibi even said that we might have to make alternative plans basically to move forward without full U.S. support. That's bullshit. All right. This is all, he's only doing this with Abraham Accord countries. So this is all a smokescreen, guys. Remember who Trump is. All right. He's the heel in a WWE wrestling skit. Shout out to Angel Rivera, Angel in the Afternoon, and Pro Wrestling Talk, which was live on the Ocho last night. Got a record, I think, most number of views we've ever had on a Pro Wrestling Talk show on the Ocho since we started it in January. So thank you to everyone who's watching over there.
American bullshit.
But Trump is an expert in manipulation, in playing the heel, in creating the facade. And he's got script writers that can help put this together so that everybody wins in their minds and comes out with a little bit of face. This one fought this one. Oh, remember, it's well, he pushed back against Bibi. How can you say that he's such a Zionist? Because he takes orders from Miriam Adelson, and he's still planning on leveling Gaza, and he still let them take portions of Syria and portions of Lebanon and didn't say shit for the entire time. 71 days of starvation, hasn't said shit. He could immediately get aid in there today if he wanted to. I mean, today. But he doesn't. So, fraud. All right.
Yep.
But meanwhile, we got a win there. The other place where we got a small win, and again, this came from Breakthrough News, who, by the way, congratulations to Indie Media Award honoree Breakthrough News. They hit 1 million subscribers on YouTube this week. As a nonprofit, that's remarkable. University of San Francisco will divest from defense companies supplying Israel, including Palantir, L3 Harris, GE Aerospace, and Raytheon by June 1st, following sustained pressure from student activists. Also really important, my goodness. And what's really important about this is University of San Francisco is where? Silicon Valley.
In San Francisco?
Where's Palantir based? Silicon Valley. This is their
Silicon
backyard.
Valley?
They have to turn around and hit companies that are right in their backyard and say no. And this comes after months of protests, including a recent library occupation renamed in honor of Hossam Shabbat. All right, who Reef did a detailed story about on INN News a couple of months ago when they murdered him and targeted him as one of the few remaining journalists that was broadcasting on a daily basis and sharing stuff regularly. While the University of San Francisco insists that the decision was already planned, students say it resulted from negotiations and unrelenting pressure since last spring's encampments. They're certainly not divesting if there's no pressure. They're just not. So that's a win. And we're going to take that as a win. Also, you know who divested of INN is YouTube. So if you're able to, and of means, this is where you can do so. Cash App, $ Indie News Network, ko-fi.com/Indie News Network, paypal.me/Indie News Network, and at INNnewsletter.com, or at IndieMediaToday.com, where we are actually live right now over on Substack. I'm so excited to be able to stream live to Substack. Such a geek about all that stuff. I'm sorry to be like a little over the moon about it, but it was a struggle, man. I begged these guys for years. Hey, we would like to be able to send the show there. Got a nice, base of people that subscribe only through there. That may be the only place they see us. How do we get through the algorithms? And what I love about this is that every single person that subscribes,
Substack newsletter near you.
Yes, every person that subscribes to INNnewsletter.com gets this emailed to their inbox when we go live. Guaranteed. I don't have to worry about the alerts not working or the filter. If you turn on the emails, you're going to get it. Support independent media. We need it more than ever.
Mwah. Ciao, baby.
No! We just fucking lost the stream.
I guess this isn't such an awful place. Is that what you want me to say? You prove it's possible to sleep for days, and I still think you're right here awake. The
are these people?
This is a guy named Guy Christensen. You may or may not have seen a video of his before, but this is some motherfucking dystopian shit right here. Watch this.
This is extremely dystopian. In Israel's final solution for the Palestinians, which their war cabinet voted unanimously into motion yesterday, May 5th, 2025, Israel will be establishing biometric camps in southern Gaza, erecting compounds run by foreign mercenaries who dictates who and who doesn't get aid. These areas will be under full IDF control, and they will be able to snatch and murder whomever they want to on their way to get aid. This will be social engineering on a micro level. They will be able to punish journalists, critics, and activists, anyone who they want. The plan lays out how this works. Each individual family selected to receive aid will get a package that contains the bare minimum calories needed to sustain them for 7 days. In exchange for this, the family will have to submit their biometric data to the IDF. This comes after 65 days of total siege on the millions of Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. They haven't received a single delivery of food, water, medicine, nothing. The only thing that has entered Gaza for the past 65 days has been American bombs. And you know what the cherry on top is? Israel plans to only allow 10% of the amount of aid that was entering Gaza during the ceasefire, which, if we remember, the amount of supplies that was entering Gaza during the temporary ceasefire was far below what Gaza actually needs to survive. We have dozens of cases of Palestinian children starving to death, dying in their sleep, dying from malnutrition. This is a deliberate act of mass starvation designed to break and kill a population that has been being genocided for 18 months. Journalists and aid workers are being hunted. Medical workers and first responders are shot in the dead of night by the IDF. Farmland, food warehouses, community kitchens, water systems are being obliterated alongside the health system that Israel has bombed every single hospital in the Strip. This is not an accident. This is extermination by design. The time is now to act. It's called the final solution for a reason. This is the last stage. So activate yourself. Go to my bio. There's ways to do so. Share this video to get this message out there. Thank you, and free Palestine.
You better say free Palestine.
Kids are all right. Let me tell you. Yeah. So that is a lot of what Whitney was talking about, where you're literally going to have to scan your retinal scan maybe, or a fingerprint scan in order to be able to get enough rations to survive starvation plus for another week. And if you said something on social media they didn't like, or you went on a road they didn't like, or you looked at the person who's taking your ID the way that, in the funny way, you may not get it for the week. This is what they want. I mean, it's disgraceful. Oh my goodness. No, mass starvation. Mass starvation, Applejack. Not the other word. This is a family show. Well, it's sort of a family show. Although I wouldn't really want to. Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Fozzie. All right. So that is portion one. Again, biometric IDs. This is what Palantir and Google, which they've now started to participate in this too. This is Unit 8200 companies that then come over here and they're getting preferential treatment from the Trump administration. It's insane. All right. But that's not the only video I brought. You shared this with me the other night after I went to bed. I guess you found it. And it was a quote from Nora Barrows Friedman, and I immediately wanted to click and watch the video. David Miller, professor from the UK, famously went to Nasrallah's funeral, and he was detained at Heathrow for hours and harassed specifically because he attended the funeral in Lebanon. And he has been tremendously outspoken in anti-Zionism and in calling out exactly what Zionism is, and in calling out the rape culture that there is, and calling out the most extreme elements there, which is uncomfortable for a lot of people and put a big target on his back. Here he's quoting Nora Barrows-Friedman from the Electronic Intifada, who's a also Indie Media Award honoree. Electronic Intifada, one of the best outlets there is in covering the struggle of Palestinians from their perspective. At Intifada on Twitter. And she recorded a podcast where she was a guest, or she was on a panel, and she talked about this. And here's a quote, and I wanted to go and see the longer context. But she says, quote, "I don't care about saving the Jewish soul at this point. I don't care about anything that has to do with preserving anything of my inherited genetic identity. It makes no difference to me about the future of Jewish society because of what it's been reduced to right now is horrific. What Jewish society has been allowed to promulgate in Palestine is irredeemable. I just feel sick and I have hatred. And I just want it to stop." And I read that resonates so well with me. So I brought Nora's video because I think that she's at a moment of, personal crisis, as am I with all of this, with how we were raised and what we were taught and how none of this tracks with who we were told our people were. But yet the mental gymnastics that have been done to excuse this stuff is beyond madness, because it's gaslighting on top of everything.
Even want the Zionists to take. I'm really stuck because I don't even want the Zionists to take up any space in my head at this point. Like I don't care. I don't care about saving the Jewish soul at this point. I don't care about anything that has to do with, preserving, anything of my inherited genetic identity. It makes no difference to me about, the future of Jewish society, because what it has been reduced to right now is horrific. What Jewish society has been allowed to promulgate in Palestine is irredeemable. And I don't know. That's just kind of where I'm at. I'm just at a place of just like, I just feel sick. I feel sick, and I have hatred, and I just want it to stop. I'm really,
So there's only one thing that stood out to me that I wasn't crazy about there, which was kind of the conflation.
Could outlaw religion, and most of these sex crimes would disappear in a couple of generations.
Yes, but the conflation there of Judaism and what Israel is doing, and how they're bastardizing and twisting it to the point where she's even using the language in a way. And she's like one of the most, she's such an incredible fighter on behalf of the Palestinian people. And as an anti-Zionist Jew who's incredibly outspoken, I have the utmost respect for her. But we all get caught by it. That's part of the Hasbara. That's part of their goal and their game is to get you to co-opt and use their language in describing this and their terms and their framing. And yes, it's Jews that are doing this to the Palestinian people, but it's not all Jews. And she knows that more than anyone, because she's been fighting as much as any Jew to make it stop. With her voice and with the platform that she has. And I also, what resonated with me there is the feeling of hatred and anger at claiming that we're being represented by these people, that in any way, shape, or form, the connection that I have religiously with them could justify anything that they're doing, and that I would be okay with any of that And they're just speaking for me, you know, the douchebags like the Shy Davidites and the Bill Ackmans. And this then becomes the perception of what Jewish people are to so many people. And it's just wrong. And I think that's part of what she's talking about. But of course, it's also using that religion as that justification, which we've never given our permission for, nor they've ever asked us, nor would they give a crap either way, because we've been screaming for 18 months, not in my name. And they continue to do it and spit in our faces and then say that we're not Jews and that we're self-hating Jews because we don't want Israel to murder Palestinian babies that are less than a year old. I'm with you, Nora. I love you, and thank you for all you're doing. Really, I hope a lot of people are out there.
She is in the corner,
showing their appreciation for being outspoken and speaking against our own community. There are not enough of us, and I also don't speak out as often as I could publicly. Part of that is because of family stuff, and it gets very complicated when you've got, you know, very close family members. Do you walk away from your whole family over this? I mean, it happened. It's been happening, and it's really tough. So fuck Israel for even putting us in that position at all. So,
yep. Let's
continue with fuck Israel by having the obvious question asked by Jason Hickel, who's a pretty smart cookie. Don't always agree with everything you post. This one was right on. Just curious to know what the reaction would be if someone bombed virtually every hospital, every school, and most civilian housing in Israel, and then openly planned to implement concentration camps and ethnic cleansing there. Because that's being done in Gaza, and all I hear is silence. Cowardly, nauseating silence. So this isn't necessarily a story. Now, Lisa here, who's a Kennedy researcher for JFK and RFK, she's unfriended nearly everyone in her life for their silence at this point. And some people have done that, and I deeply respect the people who have. But sometimes that's just about everybody in your life, and it's really hard on those people. And I have feeling for them. It is more complicated than that with people who this is not on their radar, and it's not necessarily something that affects their life on a daily basis, even though they see it affects my life on a daily basis. And that hurts.
Who are these people? Who are these people?
Thank you. Yeah, that hurts. Sure. But everybody's got to do what they have to do to survive right now. And I just think that there are people that need to stick their head in the sands and believe what they need to believe, because otherwise it would bring their world crashing down together. And that doesn't necessarily serve anyone when they're holding it together to support 4, 5, 6 other people that have nothing to do with any of this. It's a very complicated situation. I don't know how to say any less about it. And then I got one more about the dam cracking and about just how much Israel has caused their own destruction. All right. This is a very powerful 2-minute speech from somebody I would never ordinarily bring on this show. It's a member of the House of Commons in Parliament. All right. Middle East Eye shared this. Speaking in front of the House of Commons, MP Mark Pritchard condemned Israel for its actions in Gaza and the occupied West Bank. And he says, I've supported Israel pretty much at all costs. And he says, I want to say that I got it wrong. And he's going to go a little bit more into this. He starts out by hedging, of course, right away. And we of course, don't like that. But we'll go here. Slideshow off. Okay. Let's make this go.
Deputy Speaker, of course, Israel is an important security, trade, and democratic partner, but that
gotta kiss their ass a little.
Blank check. The fact is that 13,000 children have been killed, 25,000 have been injured, maimed, wounded, orphaned, some of them. And for many years, I've been in this House 20 years, I have supported Israel pretty much at all costs, quite frankly. But today, I want to say that I got it wrong. And I condemn Israel for what it is doing to the Palestinian people in Gaza and indeed in the West Bank. And I'd like to withdraw my support right now for the actions of Israel, what they are doing right now in Gaza. Of course, the hostages should be released. Of course, that Israel has a right to exist.
Of course,
the Israeli people, the Jewish people should have the right to live in peace. But so do the Palestinian people. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again, that the life of a Palestinian child is as precious as the life of a Jewish child.
Again,
and this particular moment in time, we've had lots of statements over the last 18 months.
Palestinian child, Jewish child. What about no, it should have been Israeli child. If you're equating 1-to-1 Palestinian child to Jewish child, because guess what? There were Christian Palestinians, there were Muslim Palestinians. At one point, there were even Jewish Palestinians. Oh my God. Yes, there were, but they've murdered all of those, of course. But I just wanted to again note that he mentioned Palestinian child, Jewish child. Terrible.
Child is as precious as the life of a Jewish child. And this particular moment in time, we've had lots of statements over the last 18 months. This is not only this Parliament's not greatest hour. I'm really concerned that this is a moment in history when people look back where we've got it wrong as a country. Can the minister stand up to our friends and allies in the United States and make a strong stand for humanity, for us being on the right side of history, for having the moral courage to lead, not just to follow the United States, and to make a difference? That's why we're all elected here. Let's stand up for life. Let's stand up for all children, not just Jewish children.
And you didn't, I mean, you heard some people there supporting him going, yay, yeah, yay. So that, again, you know, Jacqueline Hemmings, thank you for the tip, $5 over on the Ko-fi. She says, it sounds like this MP is more scared of losing his seat in the next general election or by-election than he is worried about the Palestinian people. Maybe.
That's the first half. I'm not going to lie.
Maybe. He's saying the words. Yep. He's saying the words.
Which has taken them how long to say the words?
Well, that was about to be my other point, which took you how long to get even there?
Right.
Like, how many babies had to die before you figured that out? Before you had to say something? Move Reef over there. Recenter. He moved over. Okay. So, fuck Israel. I'm glad that there are at least some people starting to worry about this potentially being a political liability, because they certainly haven't worried about that for a while. And that's a good thing that they're doing this, you know. Again, it's a pander to Israel. You couldn't expect them to go Claire daily, but for somebody who has been an ardent Israel supporter his entire career in Parliament, I don't know how long he's been there. It's always a good thing when somebody that they think is on their team stands up and goes, "Nah, this ain't right anymore, man. We got to stop this. We can't listen to the U.S. We can't take it up the wazoo from Israel." All right, even though they all do, you know. Again, it was a little pandering, sure, but at the same time, I haven't seen too many speeches like that in Parliament. So I'm happy to see at least some of it happening somewhere in the Five Eyes countries. It's been happening elsewhere for sure. We definitely won't get monetized for that. So thank you to everyone like Jackie Jack. She's already on that wall of fame. If you want to be on that wall of fame and you're not already, the ways to do that are down in the corner. Cash App, ko-fi.com/IndieNewsNetwork, and it'll make the Who Are These People show up on the screen. PayPal.me/IndieNewsNetwork, INNNewsletter.com, and live at IndieMediaToday.com also. Support independent media. We need it more than ever.
Mwah. Ciao, baby.
No! We just fucking lost the stream.
I guess this isn't such an awful place. Is that what you want me to say? You prove it's possible to sleep for days, and I still think you're right here away. The cost of living isn't much to me, but God, it's so hard to say. And when they told you everything was safe, were you safe? Were you safe? Were you safe?
Who are these people?
The Jewish army. No, the Zionist army. Sorry.
Rapscallion?
No, the Christian and Jewish Zionist army and Arab Zionist army shot and killed a 12-year-old boy, Mohammed Bardawil, a key eyewitness to the paramedic massacre investigation. Mohammed was the sole survivor witness to the presence of Major Nikolai Ashurov and Israeli tanks during the execution of UN staff member Mr. Shatut. They executed this boy, 12 years old. Fuck Israel. That's where we're going to start. Next, I want to give a big shout out to UN Special Rapporteur on what's her title?
Albanese.
Yeah, on genocide. Francesca Albanese.
Yeah.
She says, as massacres and escalations in survivors dwindle, as massacres in Gaza escalate and survivors dwindle, I've made a decision. I will walk out of interviews that ask if I believe the figures from Gaza, as if incinerated children require proof and their numbers mattered. Also, if scores of journalists were murdered, who's left to independently verify? Oh yeah, also if they bombed every hospital and destroyed the Gaza Health Ministry, how the hell are they supposed to have any kind of count? Asking such questions is not journalism.
Direction you can fuck.
Yep. Off. Yeah, that's right. Asking such questions is not journalism. It's armchair ideology in a flak jacket. Amen, Francesca Albanese. Support, and she's always under attack by the Zionists, so support her. This one I didn't see anywhere else but Dan Cohen so far. The Israel Defense Magazine confirms that Israel is attacking Gaza with a new and unknown weapon system called Zikit 3. Markings were published indicating it's part of an advanced system, possibly originating from a missile, guided bomb, or unmanned aerial vehicle. Gaza is a laboratory for genocide, exported around the world as quote-unquote battle-tested. And I'll try to blow this up. I don't know if I can. No, I can't. I'll read it out. In photos published on social media in the Gaza Strip, a metallic component was seen among the rubble of a bombed building, bearing markings that indicate a direct connection to the Israeli Air Force. The component, which appears relatively intact, has an identification plate that includes manufacturer details, a serial number, and an internal Israeli Air Force number, and a production date. On the plate, the name Zikit 3, which is chameleon, is inscribed, along with the part number, serial number this. I don't need that in that data. This is a recently
USA on there.
No, the production date, though, was February of 2025. This is a recently manufactured component which was likely used in an airstrike within Gaza, within the Strip. The images published by a local blogger named Hamza al-Masri show the component lying among broken concrete, stones, and electrical wires, illuminated by a flashlight at the site of the destruction. In one image, the identification plate is clearly visible. In another, the metallic body itself is shown, gray in color and resembling part of a guidance or stabilization system for a precision weapon. Again, this is from the Israeli Defense magazine themselves. The component's name is not known as part of any previously reported weapon system. At this stage, no official response has been issued by the IOF spokesperson or any Israeli security officials. The fact that this production date is February of 2025 indicates that it's a relatively new weapon manufactured this year. Its discovery in the Gaza Strip suggests it was used operationally in recent months. The component bears markings indicating it is part of an advanced system, possibly originating, like you said, from a missile-guided bomb or UAV, which is a drone. This clearly legible identification details preserved on the component allow for a direct connection to the Israeli Air Force, as indicated by the internal number, because they use IAF number on the stamping. The presence of such a component in Gaza provides the first visual documentation of an Israeli weapon previously unknown to the public, which was likely used in the most recent strikes in the area. Thanks, guys.
Inconceivable.
Thanks, guys. Really appreciate all that money, funding, and weaponry you're providing to these motherfuckers to commit genocide.
Serenity now!
Next, we got a Dave DeCamp article out of Anti-War. Israelis, and this was May 15th. So this was already 3 days ago, and they pounded the Gaza Strip nonstop for 3 days. And I'm going to report on that and bring stuff more about this. The Israeli military has intensified its attacks on Gaza amid President Trump's visit to the region. What a surprise. At least 100... They played head fake. All right, again, at least 143 Palestinians were killed by Israeli attacks in Gaza on Thursday, Al Jazeera reported, as the Israeli military has intensified its strikes on the besieged territory amid Trump's visit to the region. At least 16 more have been killed early Friday morning, Gaza time, as Israel continues to ramp up attacks, suggesting the Israeli military has started the next phase of its genocidal war. Yes. And then they're going to follow up with a ground invasion, allegedly. Health officials told Al Jazeera at least 61 killed in a barrage of attacks in Khan Yunis. Heavy Israeli strikes were also reported in Jabalia, northern Gaza, for the second day. They just hit the whole area. According to the Palestinian news agency Wafa, at least 15, including 11 children and 1 woman, were killed by the strikes in Jabalia. Photos and videos from Gaza on Thursday show many children among the casualties. Yeah. Wafa also reported that among those killed in Khan Yunis was a journalist named Ahmad al-Halou. Based on a previous report from Wafa, al-Halou's killing brings the total number of journalists then, by Thursday, killed to 213. We're up to 222 today. Gaza's health ministry said Thursday that the European hospital in Khan Yunis was out of service due to a recent Israeli attack, which targeted the outside of the facility with bunker-busting bombs. Because, sure, they need to build the Ben Gurion Canal one way or another, right? The Israeli military claimed it targeted an underground Hamas command and control center, but, of course, provided no evidence. We made it up. secret tunnel. And an analysis from Sky News contradicted the claim. Quote, the attack caused significant damage to the infrastructure, including sewage lines, damage to internal departments, and destruction of the roads leading to the hospital. Exactly Israel's intent, the health ministry wrote on Telegram. According to Al Jazeera, Israeli attacks on Thursday also targeted the Al-Wada hospital in Jabalia and the Indonesian hospital in Khan Yunis. Internationals, they don't give a fuck. If you're trying to patch up any Palestinians, they're trying to kill you. The latest violence in Gaza comes as Israel continues to maintain a total blockade on the Strip, blocking all goods from entering, regardless of what all these Zionist fucking liars say. Okay, Dave has it right, which has been imposed since March 2nd. The World Health Organization said Tuesday that 57 children have starved to death since the blockade was imposed. You're going on almost 100 days of absolute siege. Nothing in. This came from Mahmoud Bassam also on Thursday evening. The bombing on the Gaza Strip has been ongoing for 3 hours without pause, with unprecedented intensity, as if it's the first day of the war. Explosions shake the ground, smoke fills the sky, and the scene brings back memories of those early days we thought had passed. Gaza's bleeding once again, and the world continues to merely watch. It's disgraceful. Ghost Start says 500 slaughtered the last 72 hours. Here's Mondo Weiss, and this was
mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
This was Friday morning at 11:15. Israel has killed more than 250 Palestinians in Gaza in 48 hours. Oh. And then they're going to claim, well, that's not genocide because it's only 250 people. These motherfuckers. Well, they're adding to their numbers, right? As we're dropping bombs on them and making them run for their fucking lives. This was this morning. 5 journalists, 3 along with their families, have been killed in an Israeli bombing of Gaza since midnight. May their memories be a blessing. That was this morning. Yeah, this clown, an innocent mother and her 2 babies killed by Gaza terrorists. There are no... What? Where? They're all running for their lives.
Is a mockery of morality.
I'll take shit that never happened for 1,000, Alex. Get the fuck out of here. They don't even allow them to mourn their fucking dead in peace. Look what they did to Shireen's fucking funeral.
Abu Akleh. Yeah. I remember. We covered that.
Yeah, we did.
Which was fucking wild.
Issa Amro. We covered a couple weeks ago how the IDF stood by while his neighbors, or while the Israeli settlers that are taking over the West Bank, destroying land and taking over houses, were fucking with him and cut up his tree and stole his tools. Well, they've been ramping up their attacks. All right. So he posted this, that last night the Israeli settlers attacked my house with stones. They came at 4 a.m. to throw stones. Wait, I thought throwing stones was like an offense worthy of putting people in jail for 10 years, because that's what they do to the
or worse.
The Palestinians.
No, it allows you to kill children. If children throw stones at you, you're allowed to shoot them. That's what happens in this country. So, are they burning a cross on this dude's front lawn? Is that what's happening?
Effectively, no. Well, it might as well be. No, they're setting his tree on fire, his land on fire. He says, last night, Israeli settlers attacked my house with stones. They came at 4 a.m. to throw stones and make fire on my family land, chanting about the death of my brother and wishing that I will die or be killed too. Before that, Israeli army came to make sure that I'm alone in the house. It's the reality of the Israeli occupation and apartheid. So let's listen to these motherfucking jerk-offs and listen. Children, these are children at 4 o'clock in the morning setting fire to this guy's land. And listen to this. This is indoctrination. These children were brainwashed from birth.
Cult shit.
Yes, the soldiers were there to protect the settlers. That's right, Desert Mantis. Wow, we got a super chat? Oh my God. Stephen R., thank you.
$100 from Stephen R., appreciate you.
Damn, bro. Many self-claimed
YouTube's
leftists
cut.
promote every fake tension between Trump and Netanyahu as if it's even real. Easier to put your legs up and stop protesting if you pretend that Trump... I don't know what. Cut off there. That Trump is fighting anything or is going to... wasn't a tool.
Yeah.
They're like using it. It's a, you should die is what they're saying.
Yeah.
Thank you, Stephen. Really appreciate you.
Appreciate you, fam.
Oh. So this is what Issa's dealing with at 4 o'clock in the morning, and it just goes on and on and on. And the IDF is standing there watching these kids do this and protecting them to make sure that, heaven forbid, he came out to try. Now, first of all, there are 20 of them. They would just start throwing rocks at him, and he'd end up in the hospital. So he's staying inside. They're breaking his windows. They're setting fire to his land. This has 1 million views. Thankfully. Eva Bartlett, I'm glad you're okay, Issa, but damn, they are hideous. Yeah, they certainly are. But it's not done there. Here's the head fake.
Posted something else about it, if I can find it.
Here's the head fake about Trump's personal negotiator, Steve Witkoff, told mediators the U.S. isn't going to force Israel to end the Gaza slaughter, even after they got the American kid out, who certainly looks a lot healthier than a lot of the people that have been let out of the Israeli prisons, let me tell you. They won't let him speak, from what I understand. What a surprise. U.S. won't force Israel to end the Gaza slaughter. Netanyahu is refusing to end his genocidal war and has vowed it will continue even if more hostages are released. Another Dave DeCamp. Dave DeCamp, by the way, Indie Media Award honoree, as is antiwar.com. Support Dave, support anti-war. Dave said he's going to be starting to do some stuff on Substack. Hopefully he chooses to do that. So Dave writes
to a Substack newsletter near you.
No, not Rachel. No, we can't have that. No. Okay. U.S. Middle East envoy Steve Witkoff has told Arab mediators that the U.S. will not force Israel to end its genocidal war in the Gaza Strip. Womp, womp. The report, which cited Arab officials and has said Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was staunchly refusing to end military operations in Gaza, a position he made clear in public comments as the Israeli military is preparing a major escalation. Again, this was 3 days ago. Not really that much of a surprise, except that Trump could make him do that now, right now. He could literally call up Bibi in the middle of the night and say, you motherfucker, cut the bombs off right now, or we're going to start fucking shooting Israelis. They would stop right now.
That won't happen.
That's right. But that's what it's going to take. It's going to take somebody threatening to kill Israelis and then actually having to do it before they do it. And Israel may kill whoever threatens them. They have Where's Daddy?
Rule of acquisition.
76.
Every once in a while, declare peace. It confuses the hell out of your enemies.
Well, that's what they did. That's exactly what they did in letting that kid out. All right. We in the coming days will be entering with all our strength to complete the process to subdue Hamas, even though he knows that it's not about Hamas. All right. Yeah. It could be that Hamas will say, pause. We want to release another 10 hostages. Okay, release them. We will receive them. And then after, why would you release them then? But there will not be a situation where we stop the war. There is no war. It's only a slaughter and a massacre. War is when you could potentially get hit and lose, and there's some kind of an equal footing. War is not everybody. One side has all the tanks and all the money, and the other side has none. And right of the travel, passport. Bibi's allowed to fly around the world. Nobody's allowed to leave Gaza. But it's a war. The Times report also cited a source who was present at the meeting with Witkoff that Witkoff held with the family members of Israeli captives held in Gaza last week. Of course, they guaranteed said that it's Bibi's fault that they're not out yet. The source said that Witkoff largely agreed with the position of Arab mediators that Israel's plan to escalate will not be effective. For whom? At another meeting with hostage families this week, Witkoff was pressed on why the U.S. didn't force Israel to stop. We're not the Israeli government. We don't disagree. The Israeli government is a sovereign government. They can't tell us what to do, and we can't tell them what to do. Gaslighting motherfucker. Israel's military operations in Gaza are entirely reliant on U.S. military aid, meaning the U.S. has the ability to pressure Netanyahu to end the slaughter and allow humanitarian aid into Gaza at minimum, which has been under total Israeli blockade again since March 2nd.
Are we the baddies?
According to the Times report, Witkoff is now proposing a deal for a weeks-long ceasefire that lets Israel reload that would release a few captives. Hamas's position is that it's willing to free all the hostages at once in exchange for a permanent ceasefire and a releasing of all of the Palestinian hostages in Israeli prisons, like 10,000 of them or more. Witkoff has insisted that during the week-long truce, the U.S. would ensure, and you know that there's never been a truce. Israel's never once ceased fire. Even during the ceasefire, they killed over 100 Palestinians. The U.S. would ensure Israel entered talks on a lasting deal. But Hamas is unlikely to agree to an agreement without an upfront commitment to a permanent truce. Israel was supposed to end, no, not just a permanent truce, but a permanent exiting of the space. Get the fuck out. Stop stealing our land. They've already moved the line in 1.5 miles all along. We covered that a couple weeks ago. Israel was supposed to enter talks under permanent ceasefire under the deal that was signed in January, but of course they welched on that deal too. So why the fuck would you accept any deal that they made? I can't say fuck Israel enough.
You better say free Palestine.
We will definitely not be remonetized by YouTube. And you know what? I don't care. Yeah, my channel is until YouTube figures it out and turns me off. Don't give them I love you, Steve. Thank you. You just gave YouTube $30 out of that 100. I wish you got one of those other ways.
Yep.
Cash App, Ko-fi, PayPal,
Cash App,
IndieNewsNow newsletter. All those ways get us at least 90% of the money, if not more. 88% with Ko-fi, with the Substacks.
Comes up on stream.
Substacks. We give up 10% to Substack and then another 2% to Stripe. So it's 12% on Substack.
Substack newsletter.
PayPal, if you do it as friends and family, no fees at all. Ko-fi, it's like 5%. Cash App, no fees at all. YouTube, 30% fee. Rumble Rant, 50% fee. Rumble channel subscription. Rumble channel subscription. Now they're taking even a few percentage points. Allegedly, they used to give you 100%. They stopped doing that. Allegedly, I haven't checked.
Fraud Squad, hold it, sister.
Support independent media, kids, because we need it more than ever. And I love you. And have a good night, fam.
Keep listening to what boats have to tell you.
No, we just fucking lost the stream.
I guess this isn't such an awful place. Is that what you want me to say? You prove it's possible to sleep for days, and I still think you're right here away. The cost of living isn't much to make, but God, it's so hard to say. And when they told you everything was safe, were you safe? Were you safe? Were you safe?
Who are these people?
The other thing I wanted to mention, and I did mention it earlier during the Fuck Israel segment, was the Dissidents article about Bari Weiss and the Free Press, which was outstanding. Oh my God. But it's super long. So you're going to have to go read that yourself. It'd probably take me a half hour just to read through it. But after reading it, which is, again, an outstanding piece, it's called The Free Press, Selling the Israel Lobby's Agenda Under the Banner of Fearless Journalism. Where have we seen this before? Huh. All right, so that's the Free Press funded by Bari Weiss. So I had a comment on top of all this is that Bari Weiss is a Netanyahu toady. Now, this is playing off of her appearance on the Joe Rogan show where she called Tulsi Gabbard a Assad toady. And he's like, what exactly is that? She didn't really have a good answer. Bari Weiss is a Netanyahu toady, but I'll explain what it is. She's a war crime whitewasher and an apologist for people who brag about baby murderers and government-sanctioned rapists and committing prisoner torture in our society today. We have hundreds of documented cases of this. I have no idea who would pay for that garbage propagandist publication. This is what our leaders have decided will be acceptable. I think it was a great job by the Dissident to break down who and what is behind the messaging being pushed across Substack and the entire internet, thanks to venture capitalists like Andreessen Horowitz and David Sachs and everybody else that valued the outlet at $100 million last October. It's probably worth more than that today. For what? How much revenue are they actually generating for Substack? So, and it's impossible that this venture is profitable considering all that it's gotten. So ask yourself why it's being funded, likely at a loss, to the valuation of $100 million. Is that what they value the effect of their propaganda because it gets into X amount of places and could command X amount of advertising? I don't believe they sell ad space. I could be wrong. So again, read the Dissidents article. It was outstanding. Here's the beginning of it. In selling the Israel lobby's agenda under the banner of fearless journalism. Bari Weiss's The Free Press sells itself as an adversarial independent outlet, but functions as a propaganda arm for the Israeli government. So, yeah, here you go. 1.25 million overall subscribers, 155,000 paid subscribers. Again, who's paying to be propagandized by this nonsense for confirmation bias, not facts, just absolute nonsense. All right. Anyway, fired up again today too. APAC Nepo baby. Okay. So if you go through all the sections here and you can see them here, like father, like daughter, this will take you right to it. And this is all about her father. All right. Lou Weiss, APAC connected father. Then you have the Free Press, which originally launched as Common Sense or a different name, and then changed it, rebranded. Here you go, Common Sense. Yep. After she left the New York Times, she launched this Substack outlet. By 2022, it had rebranded as the Free Press. Weiss raked in cash from VCs like Mark Andreessen, who also is a VC owner of both Substack and Stripe. That's the monetization arm for Substack. Okay, sample of type of reporting that the Free Press did is showcased in a 2022 mashup of the most thoughtful writers we know on the biggest stories of 2022 presented at the end of the year. Like, go against the mainstream consensus. Like, you know, now NIH director Jay Bhattacharya, he was part of that mainstream alternative media narrative, also involved with the wellness company, I believe. Don't quote me on that. Got to talk to Amazing Polly about where he sits in all of that. But he's not clean in all of this. And now he's part of the Trump admin. So they brought him into the fold. They bought his silence. All right, then there's the anti-free press, furthering the Israel lobby's agenda and all the ways that she's done that and that the outlet has, and then giving credit to where it's due, right? In 2012, she set out to connect her Zionist activism to her journalism, and she's done a good job of doing that. The problem is that it's monstrous and disgusting and barbaric and criminal to the point, almost criminal to the point of whitewashing, criminalization, and war crimes. As sick as it is, she actually did a good job of pushing their craven and genocidal agenda under the guise of fearless journalism and free thinking. Well, if you want to compliment her for being a great propagandist, I guess, yes, she is an excellent propagandist. Oh, let me scroll down so you can see that. There it is right there. Unreal. Okay. This was actually a really good article, and it went in depth and it went really deep. So I appreciate that. Subscribe to The Dissident. He's looking for paid subscribers, and he's been putting out a mountain of content lately. Let me just go back to the homepage here on The Dissident's Substack for a second and show you that in the last 3 days, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 original articles in a few days, plus the Free Press article that was a super in-depth one. He's been hard at work. So support independent media, support our friend and INN co-founder, The Dissident. Yes, he was involved in the original 16. If you're able to, Adam means, please support the independent media you want to see. Those are the amazing people that have already done so. The ways to do it are Cash App, $, Indie News Network, Kodashfee.com/Indie News Network, PayPal.me/Indie News Network, and at INNnewsletter.com. Continue to support independent media because we need it more than ever. So many propagandists out there. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next week. Take care, everyone. No! We just fucking lost the stream!
You can't keep giving us nothing and think we're bluffing about coming for your heads. Why play civil if you won't listen? To 50,000 died, and now we know our mission. We form a militia, make Congress a prison.
Who are these people?
You know, we're not really that critical, and we don't talk necessarily about Ukraine because we know it's just literally a proxy for NATO. So they're just a vassal. We really are focusing on where the money's coming from, and that's what we're going to talk about tonight. That's next, which is our Fuck Israel segment, because we have to do one every week. This is Fuck Israel. We have to. They're making us do this because they keep doing this. So the first one's a short story, and I didn't even want to bring this, but man, it's so powerful. And the basics, and I think you talked about You know, you talked about this on Wednesday night. I think this kind of inspired that too, about a woman and privacy and how she feels. What was the word that you used on the
starvation?
Suffocation. How she feels suffocated mentally because she can't even cry in peace. But this goes even further.
Yep.
Right? Because Mondo Weiss, another Indie Media Award honoree, outstanding publication. Please support them if you can. All right, we need independents like this that are user-funded, that don't take big money funding. All right, the war where women's bodies lost their rights. The war in Gaza is not only the story of rubble and airstrikes, it's a story of a girl getting her period under bombardment, the mother bleeding in silence and miscarrying on cold floors giving birth under drones. Like, this is what they're living with right now. That was from Beit Lahia, February 20th. That's Getty image or APA images. Yeah. This woman says, in October, I bled for 10 days without access to a proper bathroom. The house we fled to, like most shelters in Gaza, had no privacy. 40 people slept in 2 rooms. The bathroom had no door, only a torn curtain. I remember waiting for everyone to sleep so I could clean myself with a bottle of water and scraps of cloth. I remember praying I wouldn't stain the mattress I shared with 3 other cousins. I remember the shame, not of my body, but of being unable to care for it. In war, the body loses its rights, especially the female body. The headlines rarely speak of this.
Who are these people?
Thank you.
Hey,
the headlines
appreciate it, fam.
Rarely speak of this, of what it means for a girl to get her period under bombardment, of mothers, again, forced to bleed in silence and miscarry on cold floors and give birth under drones. The war in Gaza is not only a story of rubble and airstrikes, it's a story of bodies interrupted, invaded, and denied rest. And yet somehow these bodies continue. They have no choice. That's how life works. As a Palestinian woman and a displaced student now living in Egypt, I carry this bodily memory with me. Not as a metaphor, but as a fact. My body still flinches at loud noises. My digestion falters. My sleep comes in fragments. I know many women, friends, relatives, neighbors who've developed chronic illnesses during the war, who lost their periods for months, whose breasts dried up while trying to breastfeed in shelters. What happens when you can't get clean water? War enters the body like an illness and stays. Israel enters the body like an illness and stays in this case. Sorry, I'm going to say it. Not her. The Gazan body is a map of interruption. It learns early to contract itself, to take up less space, to stay alert, to suppress desire, hunger, bleeding. The public nature of displacement destroys privacy while the constant fear gnaws at the nervous system. Women who once guarded their modesty now change clothes in front of strangers. Girls stop talking about their cycles. Dignity becomes a burden that no one can afford. This is the paradox of survival. The same body that's denied safety becomes the instrument of resistance. Women boil lentils over candlelight. They calm children in basements. They cradle the dying. These acts aren't passive. They are radical. Yes. To menstruate, to carry, to feed, to soothe amid destruction is to insist on life. She returns, this woman, again and again to the image of her mother during the war. Her back hunched over a pot, her hands shaking, her eyes scanning the ceiling with every sound. This did not start October 7th. She didn't eat until everyone else did. No. She didn't sleep until the kids did. Her body bore the architecture of war and motherhood all at once. She says she realizes now how political her exhaustion was, how her labor, like that of so many Palestinian women, defied the logic of annihilation, and we're going to use that word in a moment. That's Miriam Khatib. There is no tent for the body in Gaza. No safe space where the female body can unfold without fear. The war strips us bare, not only of our homes and belongings, but of the rituals that make us human. Bathing, menstruating, grieving in private, but without even shelter our bodies endure. They remember, they resist. And maybe in their trembling persistence, they write the truest history of all. And I don't want stories like this to end up erased and ignored and disappear. And that's why I bring them here.
Yeah.
Because this shit needs to be told. We cannot let this get swept under the rug. We did this. Israel did this. We, the collective we, as the United States, did this. Armed and funded this. Don't turn away. So fuck Israel for that. Annihilation. Speaking of Annihilation, oh my God, which is perfect from an account called I Really Hate You. This is the Gaza Strip. The entire red zone is now an annihilation zone, as the Israeli army calls it. They want to put all 2 million Palestinian people into these little camps, which are concentrated in certain areas. Huh. Camps that are concentrated. Yep. Where have I heard that before? And of course, that doesn't mean they'll stop bombing the green zone, as I Really Hate You reminds us.
Yep.
It just means that that's the only place they're allowed to go now, because the rest of it's going to become a construction zone. And notice that they've already gotten sections of waterfront property marked off as their own. So fuck Israel for that. Next. Narrative change time. Hey, let's play a little video here. Anybody hear about this? So, on May 21st, what day was that? I think you did. That was Wednesday morning. On Wednesday morning, the IDF opened fire on foreign diplomats. Obviously, they were unarmed and not terrorists, but the IDF thought they were civilians and, of course, needed to be slaughtered. So let's listen to these 15 seconds. Oh, my God.
Diplomatic community.
جيش الاحتلال يطلق النار على الوفد خلال تواجدنا
يطلق النار بشكل مباشر. Maybe a better run.
بشكل مباشر. هي.
Thanks. So they apologized for that. So they apologized and we're like, yeah, sorry.
We're sorry.
We're sorry.
We're sorry.
We're sorry. We're so sorry. Right? Okay, well.
Jesus Christ.
But somebody decided that a narrative change was necessary, and let's see why. Here's what happened. So Rob Durden, our brother at INN, check out my one-on-one with Rob Durden from end of March, which you can find at INNnewsletter.com, among other places. May 21st, it was all about the foreign diplomats coming under Israeli fire on official West Bank visit. Huh. Why? Warning shots. The army fired warning shots at French and other diplomats. A little bit more detail. UK calls for an investigation. Huh. And Israel was condemned over their troops being in the occupied West Bank firing warning shots. So, the next day, that night, there was a shooting in front of the Holocaust Museum in D.C., and now the narrative tended to change. Instantly, overnight, all those headlines were gone. Nobody was calling any outcry for anything over a... Wait, diplomats got shot at? What?
It's a psyop.
So, remember they got shot at. Okay. Let's hear what our friend Fiorella has to say. Fiorella Isabel, independent journalist, Indie Media Award honoree, of course, inaugural class 2022. She's over on Substack. This is substack.com/@Fiorella She says on notes, let me make it very clear. The assassination of Israeli, which is funny, Christian Zionist embassy staff by Elias Rodriguez, is the confessed shooter, allegedly, is extremely suspect, as he reportedly stayed and ensured everyone filmed him shouting Free Palestine
And the manifesto released to one of the most unreliable establishment sources, cosplaying as an independent journalist.
Fucking flippin' douche.
In a process
Sorry,
we know nothing.
I'll say it.
In a process we know nothing about. Well, we've been here before, haven't we? False flags are as American as apple pie. And let's remind everyone.
Come on.
And let's remind everyone that false flags don't mean that nobody gets hurt. It just means that it's designed to change the narrative and to shift public perception over what actually happened. And in this case, what actually happened was that Israel was shooting at diplomats and they needed a narrative change. So somebody decided, well, let's activate this. Now, what's really interesting is that the guy at the embassy was a Christian Zionist. He wasn't even Jewish, and we'll talk about that with the way they've been trying to conflate Judaism and Zionism, but ignore the Christian Zionist side. I thought it was interesting how they brought that in, but she continues and says that this also comes as Israel unleashed one of its worst massacres in recent history against Gaza refugees, killing at least 500 souls in a week. And we didn't even mention that. And I'm sorry for not.
Nope.
The majority of the world has turned against it for its months of atrocities, year and a half plus. So sure, something like this would, in the West, affect the protesting and support. It would work in favor of Israel to a degree, but for the people saying this is going to hurt the movement for Palestine, I ask, what movement and from what? The U.S. media and government have not only ignoring this genocide for almost 2 years, but entirely justifying it while our government funds it. The Palestinian movement as a whole has been vilified and persecuted by both Democrats and Republicans and is now being used to expand the surveillance state. In the U.S., this movement is very weak and relies on a lack of understanding about the history of U.S. interventionism and foreign policy related to Palestine. Totally agree. How can you, when it's happening to, and our tax dollars are complicit in a modern day Holocaust? Are you truly standing against it by not doing enough? If it weren't this incident, they just use another or even manufacture consent like they've been doing by making Zionists the victims as they murder children on the daily. The baby murder is just insane to me. Most in West Asia didn't bat an eye other than to laugh if we in the West think we'll stop focusing on what Israel's doing over this. All right. It's what you believe. Well, you know nothing about armed resistance or the plight of Palestinians, if that's what you believe. Whether the manifesto is real, of course, is inherently correct in its statement, especially this, quote, the atrocities committed by the Israelis against Palestine defy description and defy quantification, unquote. Almost like it was written at Langley. Zionists don't need an excuse. They'll create one as they have for decades. Western pundits merely focused on how bad is this for Palestine are thinking about their own virtue signals as children are being starved to death, families are being bombed, and people burned alive in refugee camps and hospitals full of rubble. They condemn what Yemen's doing as an act of war, what protesters do, what Aaron Bushnell did, what Luigi Mangione allegedly did is going too far. And what he's accused of doing, at least. Is it when nothing changes? Doesn't the fault lie on the lack of action as the ultimate culprit, as these consequences of these silent perpetrators? In war, it does. And we're at war against a fascist entity, whether we realize it or not. Hundreds of thousands are being exterminated in a Holocaust. And if you think an act of either desperation or entire manipulation is going to throttle a movement that's inherent in every Palestinian and resistance-born human that experienced such violence and destruction, you couldn't even conceive it in your mind, you don't understand resistance at all. So kindly to all clutching their pearls about how this goes too far, to those with wide open mouths, aghast, saying they condemn the heinous act, no one cares about your condemnations or your virtue signals. Ever so kindly, shut the entire fuck up, sit down, and learn a bit about the world outside your safe Western quarters. You wouldn't survive even half a day. And she links to the She links to the alleged manifesto, and here's the video where he's not beaten up by cops. He's handled awfully well. He's not muffled. And then he's allowed to sit on a bench right there on the other side of the door. Like, really? Really? This is allegedly the guy that did it? He murdered 2 people in cold blood, admits he did it, and they treated him like this? Now,
Inconceivable!
right? Inconceivable! I love him. Wallace Shawn. Now,
Inconceivable.
Infee's mentions or replies here was something from BetBeat Media. And I wanted to bring this up because I like Kareem and I like Peter, and go support them. They're outstanding. They did a great sit down with Fee and Vanessa recently. And they replied to Fiorella and asked that the false flag seems so stupid to me. Targeting Israelis is something many people now really don't even care about, which I guess. But if you do a false flag, wouldn't you target a synagogue to show, hey, look how these pro-Palestinians are anti-Semitic? You see? See, but I think that's just the opposite.
They did do
Go ahead.
the Museum of the Holocaust.
Right, they did it at the Holocaust Museum. Right. But I said to I think it's Kareem who replies on the BetBeat account, just the opposite. It's the fact that it happened on American soil that changes how most Americans see this, sadly, versus the genocide halfway around the world. They're completely disconnected from it, unfortunately. We're not. Like, we bleed this shit every day. We see this in our feeds, and we're screaming about it daily. We're showing it on our shows. We're sharing it with people anyone who look at it. If it were a synagogue, it would only be directed at Jews. But this is a Christian Zionist murdered in a public place. Zionists will still call this anti-Semitism, claiming that the murderer didn't even know that this guy was a Christian, and that they're not just targeting quote-unquote Jews in synagogues. Now they have to fear being anywhere in public, even at a Holocaust museum. He was a volunteer for the IDF, right? See, this is a way to get Christians upset at Israel for bringing upon this kind of violence now to American soil. My feeling is that it was the press coverage surrounding that IDF shooting at the delegation of Ramallah in the West Bank, what we showed earlier, that likely led to someone calling to trigger the false flag op, allegedly, to change the news coverage overnight. False flag doesn't mean nobody ends up hurt. It's actually part of the op. And I mentioned to him that I was going to talk about this. All right. Were they at the Holocaust Museum to try to pick up no, Mastermind Hour. There was a private event there. It closed at 5:00. There was a private event, and they were leaving the private event, and somebody jumped out and shot them. Murder. Terrible. It's terrible. Look, we don't want to see anybody killed on American soil. I mean, I'm not going to clutch my pearls. This guy volunteered to be in the IDF and to protect the Israeli embassy. Then he was invited to this Holocaust Museum thing. It's a terrible story because he was engaged, right? More ways to garner sympathy. He's got a pregnant wife. They killed the wife too, right? I believe it was the husband-wife thing. So narrative change, we need that. Now, what's interesting is Nick did a really good video about this. So I'm going to bring this. It's about a 3-minute video for Hotspot. And my comment on this was that all of this, I would only add again that the result mostly benefits Israel's agenda in multiple ways, including stoking anti-Iranian sentiment, because they could potentially pin it on a hitman. I'm waiting for the announcement that connects the murderer to Iran to fit the narrative that CIA, Planned Beitar, and Mossad want to push, because we know that they're looking toward that. But they also do want to propagandize the Christians in America to support war with Iran, potentially. And if this was an Iranian, maybe, or somebody supporting it. And what they've been doing is saying that Iran supports the Palestinian people. So by extension, now you've got Iran supporting Palestinians, and this kid supports Palestinians, so therefore Iran. That's Forget Israel. Don't look at Israel. Don't look at Israel, whatever you do. Okay? So here's Nick's video. All right, let me unmute and let's start that again. Let's go.
A former IDF war criminal was smoked outside of a Jewish museum in Washington, D.C. by a lone shooter who was arrested while shouting "Free Palestine."
Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine!
I'm sorry, but this story just absolutely reeks of a false flag. Wait, you're telling me that this shooter killed 2 members of the protected class while being arrested peacefully and given an opportunity to have a glamour shot and scream "Free Palestine" at the camera? Well, I guess our First Amendment is officially done for. Whether this is a false flag or not is mostly irrelevant. Our government will still take advantage of this to roll back our rights and expand state power. The talking points are already out, with Zionists claiming that the Free Palestine movement want to globalize the Intifada and murder all Jews. No, we want you guys to stop murdering children.
This is a moment when we need to look ourselves in the mirror and say, we've got to stop this because the consequences are deadly.
When you have protesters chanting "globalize the Intifada" in the streets of major cities, this is what they mean.
Free Palestine. We hear that on the streets, we hear that on college campuses, and there are a lot of people who have been worried that that has been turned into a call to arms and a call to action and violence.
In World War II, we did not negotiate a surrender with the Nazis. We did not negotiate a surrender with the Japanese. We nuked the Japanese twice in order to get unconditional surrender. That needs to be the same here.
You guys see how the story is designed to distract from the fact that these people are committing a genocide, and the fact that they want to legitimize their anti-Semitism hoax so they can crack down on the free speech of Americans? The guy that was murdered wasn't even Jewish. He's a Christian Zionist traitor who served in the IDF, who called for Israel to murder more children. Direct action targeting genocide supporters have nothing to do with Jewish hate or anti-Semitism. So false flag or not, you guys notice how the ruling class takes advantage of these events in order to push their narrative and crack down on dissent. And this is something that we should absolutely not tolerate.
Dude, fire. That Nick nailed it. Seriously, Nick nailed that. All right. So shout out to Nick on that. Also, by the way, he uses Zay Squirrel's tweet. Zay Squirrel's been all over this too. So again, because of all of that, why is that happening? All that's happening because Israel is dropping bombs on kids. Stop murdering kids. The kids go home, we go home, and we stop screaming about that for now, and then give the land back and do all the other things that we've been saying that you need to do because you've made it untenable for them. Now what are you going to do? You've turned the whole place into a wasteland. Now you're trying to either offload them or murder them. Who knows? Pushing them into these 3 little camps. What camps? That are concentrated outside the Annihilation zone? The red is the Annihilation zone. Again, reminder, Annihilation zone. Holy shit. The last thing I wanted to talk about were the spy flights. Now, Declassified UK, and specifically Matt Kennard, who started tracking this, has been tracking for months how the UK has been using its bases in Cyprus and elsewhere to provide air support and spy flights on behalf of Israel over Gaza.
Yep.
And what I've done here is documented just a half dozen of them here and brought a bunch of them showing exactly. And he's got like flight patterns and paths and plane numbers. The Ministry of Defense has confirmed to Declassified UK spy flights to Israel will continue. RAF spy flights heading to Gaza have left the UK base on Cyprus 5 of the last 6 days, according to flight data. They track this. And look at that. It kind of disappears off radar right before it hits to this area right here. Huh. I wonder why they went dark. Interesting. All right, so that was May 20th. That was on Tuesday. But this is not new. So this was back in April. You had Matt Kennard. All right. Last week, a U.S. military CN-235 went from Britain's base to Cyprus to Tel Aviv, believed to be used by special forces. Okay, UK government refuses to divulge any information about U.S. use of RAF Akrotiri, that's Cyprus, including what planes are landing or what they're carrying. That's weird. We think that this might have been actually for the delegation that was scheduled to go for Trump and or Vance even potentially. All right. But we're speculating. We don't know. Here's another one. All right. And this again was from April 29th. All right. As Mustafa signed this new memorandum of understanding with David Lammy, the foreign secretary, the UK literally had a spy plane in the air over Gaza collecting intel for Israel to help it carry out its genocide. All right. Palestinian Authority is co-opted Vichy regime. 7 UK soldiers are permanently based in Ramallah training its security forces. What does that tell you about the Palestinian Authority?
They eat their own. Go check the segment.
Okay. Now, this was back on May 1st. Yesterday, Keir Starmer sent a huge A400M military transport plane for the UK base in Cyprus to Tel Aviv. The A400M can carry 116 soldiers and an array of weapons, including Chinook helicopters. Britain is a participant in the Gaza genocide. You, British citizens, are paying for this. There's the flight. Wee-hoo. Not cool. Amazing work by Matt. Okay. And then on May 2nd, the next day, Britain is still sending spy flights over Gaza to gather intelligence for Israel on its imprisoned, starved population. This one was in the sky over Gaza last night as Israel's drones bombed the aid flotilla in international waters. ICC must intervene as a matter of urgency. Well, we saw what they did to the ICC. They sanctioned the lead prosecutor and charged him with a crime. Yeah. Fake news. Yeah. Fake news. Hilarious.
This is meanwhile while Starmer and fucking other bullshit are trying to feign fucking sympathy.
Yes.
Like, fuck you.
All right. Here's Craig Murray. Israel bombed the civilian cargo vessel in international waters off Malta carrying just aid and peace campaigners. It was the one that Greta was supposed to be on. All right.
Yeah.
Spy flights. Here's another one. May 6th. Last night, a U.S. military C-295 plane flew from U.S.-UK base on Cyprus to Tel Aviv. Labor is refusing to divulge any info about American use of Akrotiri. This plane is used by special forces. It parked in Israel for 2 hours and then flew back. What was it dropping off? Soldiers, equipment. Who knows? So that's the spy flights. And finally, I wanted to make mention, because I saw this come up today, and we have been talking about Dr. Hussam Abu Safia since he walked up to that tank and got into the back of it, which was apparently 150 days ago. He's still sitting in an Israeli prison somewhere being tortured, potentially. We don't know what his condition is, and even if he's alive at this point. My guess is if he weren't, they would tell us. But we don't know.
Yeah.
That was earlier tonight, and I wanted to add that to the deck in order to bring that tonight. So thank you, Jimmy J, for the win, for keeping Hussam Abu Safia's case and story active. So, fuck Israel, like I keep saying repeatedly.
Free Palestine!
if you're able to. And it means please support the independent media you want to see. Those are the amazing people that have already done so. The ways to do it are Cash App, $, Indie News Network, Kodashfee.com/Indie News Network, PayPal.me/Indie News Network, and at INNnewsletter.com. Continue to support independent media because we need it more than ever. So many propagandists out there. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next week. Take care, everyone. No! We just fucking lost the stream!
You can't keep giving us nothing and think we're bluffing about coming for your heads. Why play civil if you won't listen? 50,000 died, and now we know our mission. We form a militia, make Congress a prison.